Welcome to Gen X Adulting, and today we have with us Nashville recording artist and media coach, Amy Scruggs. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much. Really been
We're
looking
so
forward to this.
we're so happy to have you. I know we spoke a while about this episode, so we've been eagerly waiting to have you on. And our first question is always, what year were you born?
1972 at the very
All
end.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So you're a Gen X.
Yes,
You're right in the middle. We're
right in the middle,
71. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like the
So we're the
poster
70.
child for this.
Yes, yes. I think we experienced literally everything related to Gen X.
Honestly,
Yeah, yeah. We were the lucky ones.
Yeah.
We weren't too close to the boomers and we weren't too close to millennials. We're like the quintessential Gen X.
completely. Completely. I
It's
mean, I even graduated high school right at 1990. So that was the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. We got in all the good music. So where were you born?
I was born here in Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles.
Okay,
San Dimas,
so
California, and because we're Gen Xers, everybody remembers Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. San
yes.
Dimas football, San Dimas, that's where I'm from, and so always heard about the Bill and Ted's reference.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to, I haven't watched that movie. I'm not kidding, in like 20 years, maybe. Like it's been so long. I'm gonna have to now go back and rewatch it now that
Yes.
we know that's where you're from. Now, as far as generationally, was it your grandparents that started there, your great grandparents? Do you know how far back your family goes?
Ooh, my parents were both raised in the Pasadena area, Glendale and Highland Park, so they were always Los Angeles. Their parents raised them there. My grandfather on mom's side came over from the South, which you've got the Scruggs last name. There you go. So
Okay.
it's like I've got Scruggs in there. And then also my other grandfather, Rippy, that all was like the South, but they came to LA well before that. And so my parents and myself, we were all raised in Southern California.
Do you know where in the South?
The Scruggs side, it was, I believe, Russellville, Arkansas, and the Rippy side was somewhere in Tennessee, and I don't know where. I don't know.
Okay. Do you know the motivation of why they came to Southern California?
No, and it's interesting with the family dynamics on everything. Honestly, do not know. There's just mysteries on all sides.
Oh, that's
So
so
nobody
interesting.
talks.
Yeah, nobody
No.
talks about anything.
Exactly. And I think on mom's side, on the Rippy side, I believe my grandfather worked for Lockheed. I think it was work that brought him out, and he was with them for years. But as far as on the Scruggs side, I know they started in there was Arkansas and in Idaho, where my dad was born, and then they
Mm.
came out here. And I don't know why, but they started the family business in Southern California.
Okay. Okay. So, do you know how your parents met?
At work, I guess they were about 19 and 20, and my mom was a secretary or something, and my dad was doing something. They were young, and they met at work, and they were engaged like 3 months later, and then
Wow.
married not far after that. And immediately my dad enlisted into the Air Force. So they had this really big, fast
Okay.
experience.
So they dated and then they married 3 months later.
Something like that. Yes, like it
Wow.
was really soon. And
And
then
then
went right
after
into the
that,
service.
did he serve?
He did.
And
My
then,
dad was Air Force for 4 years, and they served out in Plattsburgh, New York. So they went from being
oh,
Southern
okay.
California to upstate New York and all the snow. And dad loved always telling the story of digging the cars out and having to learn to live in snow because, we're very fair weathered here.
Oh, absolutely. You have the perfect weather.
Yeah.
So, did your mom, was she out in New York with him or was she
Yes,
in
they
Southern
moved
California?
together. They went together. They drove their
Okay.
58 Chevy across the country, and they
Oh,
moved
that's
to
so
Plattsburgh,
cool.
and they were there together all 4 years. I
Do you know
actually
what
got to go
years?
back there a couple years ago, visiting a friend that was in upstate New York, and drove through Plattsburgh and actually got to see where they were. My mom told me where to drive by the little apartment they rented and what their life was back then, and I was able to FaceTime dad and show him that one last time.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, that was
That's
really neat.
amazing. That is so cool. That is so. Now, do you know what years they were there?
From 61 to 65.
Wow, so they drove across the country
Yes.
during the how cool
Yeah.
would that have been? That is really, really
Before
cool.
most interstates.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That would have been really neat. So, are you the oldest?
I am the baby. I have an older brother.
Okay. Okay. So did they have your brother in New York?
No, we were both born here in SoCal. So 65, my brother was born in 68, also a Gen Xer. So they were back here a few years, and dad had stepped into the new family business that his mom and his dad had started, his mom started, his dad died shortly after, his brothers were there, so he stepped into the family business after the service to help run it.
What did they do?
It
What
was
was
the
the family
aerospace
business?
industry, interestingly
Oh,
enough, and they had a
cool.
huge company that grew in just outside of LA in City of Industry, and it was there for years until they sold the business about 25 years ago.
Okay,
That's
so was
cool.
your mom a stay-at-home mom?
Yes, we were literally like out of an 80s TV show. Mom was the stay-at-home mom, just, the whole thing. Dad provided. Scott and I were, it was like, it was, the happy days like on paper,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all of the underlying themes of what it's like at that time and being a Gen Xer, and we'll talk about that. I know of just what the underlying themes and what was really going on, but that face front, billboard looked just right.
Right, right. So you guys had that perfect idyllic it looked from the outside looking in. It
Yes.
looked like just the and your mom's home and you and your brother. Now, did you guys have the typical Gen X where you were out until the streetlights came on and no one was
Yes.
really supervising you when you were children, young children?
Yeah, yes. There was no supervision. I mean, even, and I've said this to my kids, I remember kindergarten walking like 5 blocks to the bus stop myself, waiting for the school bus, getting on the bus. And I can't even imagine when my kids were in kindergarten doing that. My
Yeah,
mom was just like, okay, go. And it's not because she was trying to hurry or trying to get to work. She didn't work. She just
right.
went, okay, bye bye. Rain
Well,
or sunshine or heat. I was walking to the bus stop at 5 years old to kindergarten. I
and
don't
it's not
get
like your
that.
brother was with you, right? Were you on your own going or were you guys together
I'm tr
walking to the bus?
I think we might have been, I'm trying to remember because at that time we were like 5 years apart in age. I think he went at a different
Yeah.
time. We
Uh-huh.
were we were 5 years apart in school, but then I skipped a grade later, so then we ended up in high school together, which he was not happy about. So that was kind of mucked things up, but we started off
Yeah.
further apart grade-wise. So I remember being by myself.
So at 5, you were out there wandering the streets, like so many of
With the
us.
other kids, though,
Yeah, no,
probably had a
so
neighborhood pack, right?
yeah. Now, well, did you have like a group as you grew like 5, 6, so it's like kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. Did you kind of have a group that you guys would ride bikes or you guys would go to each other's houses and it was
Yes,
completely unsupervised?
there was another family on our we had a little cul-de-sac, another family, and I was always over at their house, and I had another best friend, Christy, up the street, and I mean, I remember it was quite a ways, and that, "Mom, I'm going to Christy's house," and that was like first grade. I was taking my bike or walking all the way up the other side of the neighborhood to go to Christy's house.
And it was it along kind of busy roads
No,
at
it was
times?
a neighborhood, and it
Okay.
was kinda tucked in, so it wasn't busy roads, but nonetheless, it was
No,
still,
no,
and I
no.
don't remember getting there and calling saying I arrived safe. I think there was just this trust like, "Oh, yeah, they'll come back."
Well, no, I think
It's a
that's
miracle.
why for the kids that did go missing, they had been missing for like 8 hours till someone knew because they had been gone all day.
Yes.
And if they were snatched, the parent didn't realize until they weren't home when the streetlights came on.
Yes.
And so you had that long period of time where and it did happen, but none of us
Well,
were
no,
aware
then it
aware
showed
of
up
it.
on the milk
And then
carton as
eventually
we
the
were
milk
eating
carton.
breakfast.
Yeah.
Yes.
But up until then it was but even then I didn't feel an urgency from anyone, even with the milk
No.
cartons, you
No,
know.
it had to be pretty dark. Had to be
Yeah.
pretty dark, and you had to be maybe outside the circumference of the local hood you
Sure.
were in, you know?
We were I don't know, we when they say we were feral, we really were.
We
We were
we
just out
absolutely
there
were. And
figuring it out.
we had a pool in the backyard. And I remember my mom making me do swim lessons at like 4 years old, right? Okay, she knows how to swim. My brother's 4.5 years older. From that point forward, we were just in the
Yeah.
pool. The neighborhood kids would come over.
Mm.
Everybody's in the pool. I do not remember any supervision or lifeguarding of any kind. Like it was like, can
Right.
you swim?
Totally.
Okay, there you go. I don't remember any mothers signing any releases. I don't even know how we all survived and nobody drowned. I mean, there was the one of those old slides, the ones that kind of rattle when you go down it.
Mhm.
There was the big diving board. You can't even have those anymore. And
Yeah.
No.
we were just out there in the pool all summer long with the neighborhood, no supervision.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because even for stay-at-home moms, like you had alluded to, they weren't doing that because it was convenient for them because they had other things going on. It was just the culture. And that's why stay-at-home moms actually did watch soap operas back then,
Oh my
or they
God,
did
so many.
sit together and like have coffee and talk. Whereas stay-at-home moms, when we were like, I was a stay-at-home mom with my kids, and I never sat down. I still don't sit down, but I never
Right.
sat down and watched a soap opera. I never sat with a friend. If I'm having coffee with a friend, I'm meeting them for coffee. We're doing that thing, and I'm coming back home and continuing on with whatever's going on in the house. But they were just like smoking cigarettes and having coffee and gossiping and watching. It was such a different culture
Such a different
for the
time.
stay-at-home moms back then
Yes.
because they still didn't supervise us.
My mom didn't miss her soap operas, and boy, when the
Yeah.
VCR was invented, that just changed everything. Because then she would do catch up, and she had all the tapes of all the soaps, and it was just she
That's
did
all.
not miss the soap operas. We could have been drowning outside, didn't matter.
Yes, exactly. That's so funny. Now, when you were in elementary school, were you involved in any like sports or clubs or like art, or were you showing any signs of what your interests might be?
Oh, completely. So for me especially, by the time I was 3, I already climbed up on a piano bench and was playing by ear by myself. So they realized, this girl might have something. I was already singing and belting it out. I would practice the national anthem on the fireplace with the hairbrush, the whole thing. So I was immediately put into piano lessons. And but because we were a sports family, my brother was all-star everything, always.
Mm.
All CIF everything. My dad was very athletic. Everything was sports. So therefore we had to still I joke that my dad, I love him. I miss him so much. But my dad raised 2 boys and I only have 1 brother. Because like,
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
the other boy.
Yeah.
I knew how to
Yeah.
take care of the car, wash the car, clean the pool, help mow the lawn. Everything that the boys I had to do with him, and that included fast pitch softball. So I remember
Okay.
hours in the yard grueling being trained for that pitching, for fast pitch softball. Because my dad was a pitcher, I needed to be a pitcher. And they put me in softball for a couple years. That was probably when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10. My dad was the coach. My older brother was the assistant coach. That was so fun on the mound. That was so much fun. I just
No
wanted to be
pressure.
doing music. I wanted to be in theater. I wanted to be performing. I'm like, okay. Soccer was a disaster. I quit that after the first 3 games. So they did try with that. And I am still very physically athletic. I'm capable, just
Right.
wasn't where I wanted to be. So it was definitely the performing, and I was in children's groups. So mom would take me to the lessons and keep me active, and I was in all the church choir groups and all that stuff as well. But sports were
Okay.
definitely right up there. Drowning out there on the lake, learning to water ski, didn't matter. Just yes.
But you
That's
know
awesome.
what? I mean, it's kind of cool. He did teach you all those things. You know, the thing like the cleaning the pool and all the things that back then would have been for the son, right?
Totally.
Now it's not. But it is cool he did that. You
Because
know, that you learned a lot of stuff that a lot of us Gen X girls didn't
well,
know.
and I had no idea up ahead in my life how much that was going to be put into play, that now I'm so impatient or have a little tolerance, and I'm sure we'll get to that of like, wait a minute, what do you mean you can't do that? Like, I'm the pool man
Yeah.
now at our home. Like, I'm like, I got this. I know how to do all of this. I have
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
problem taking care of the car, doing all the things, or running a home completely by myself because I was trained to do that. I see things need to be done, you get it done. I have my own tool belt, like everything. And that
That's cool.
really came in handy.
No, I'm sure. When did they catch on though that okay, this sports thing isn't a thing and we need to let her have her outlet for music and for theater?
I don't think they caught on yet. I think that was
Okay.
always a struggle. It was always just the sports and, "Oh, that music thing, isn't that cute?" I think there has been a
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad got it, and he was like, You're gonna be a singer." He wanted me to be Barbara Mandrell. So my dad caught it,
Oh,
and music was our thing. But for everybody else, it was, "When are you gonna get a day job? What do you why are you," when I was performing full time, especially, that this is my day job. This is what I
right.
do. So I think it was always the arts were never really understood. I don't think either side of their families, they weren't raised up with the arts being something of value. And I was different. Nobody else had musical talent or had this capacity in them. It was all sports. I had a cousin that was, AAA ball player. I had this cousin that was that. It was sports and aerospace industry. And I didn't fit that mold in any way, shape, or form. Never did.
That is so
It's
interesting.
it's wild because you're in LA. You're in
Thank you.
Hollywood nearby. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the culture out
All
there?
the daytime shows. I was thinking about this. I was walking the dog. I don't know why, but like what was it? The Bad News Bears was filmed in Southern California. all those shows were from
Everything we grew up on.
Yeah,
Everything
you
we grew up
probably
on was Southern California.
recognized all that.
So
Yeah.
that's part of the culture. So it's interesting. But Southern California, though, is still probably a lot like anywhere else where you still have your little your culture for each of your little areas.
Oh,
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
So I don't know in your area if the entertainment industry was as prevalent as maybe another part of Southern California. Was it?
Well, and I think the difference too, is that my family, there was also this other like protective bubble. Like we had everything we did had to be at the church. Like everything, the friends were all the same. So I wasn't exposed to other possibilities of what LA really had to offer when it comes to entertainment. I wasn't exposed to the things that our kids can know today, especially because of today's technology. You know what's going
Right.
on. I look back and I have this conversation all the time. My daughter and I play a game of what school could I have gone to? What career could I have had? I'm like, oh, I could have totally gone to the School of the Arts in LA. I could have gone to broadcasting school. I could have been at the LA Film School. Like I list all these places that I didn't even know existed. It wasn't even an option for me. You can sing at church,
Wow.
and at that time we were really raised to be a mom that stays home and watches soap operas, right?
Right.
There was no teaching of a career for me or a female modeling of an entrepreneur or what was out there. It was not even provided as an option, but my brother was groomed for the family business. He's still
You
in
were
aerospace to
stereotyped.
this day.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
patriarchy was through the roof.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And your parents, like for me, my mom was a single mom. So she was forced to work, right? So I had that example,
Mhm.
but I think that was really it. It was either your mom there now during the 80s is when women were starting to go to work. So that was that whole the women's movement and all of that. So you were seeing it, but we were really kids as that was blooming.
Mhm.
And so the typical situation would have been your parents are married, your mom's home, or your parents are divorced, and your
Yes.
mom is a single mom and working. And then there was those unique situations where parents are married and the mom does have a career, but that was just really starting to be normalized.
Totally.
And I know people are always like, women worked in the 60s. I know women's worked in the 60s, but I'm talking about where it was really accepted and supported, and society was
Right.
starting to shift. That was more during the 80s, late 70s and 80s for us. So it makes sense. But you said as far as like you sang in the church, so and they created this bubble.
Mhm.
So it was almost like a bubble on top of a bubble because you had the bubble of where your parents are married, your mom's a stay-at-home mom, and you're raised to kind of follow in her footsteps. That's how it's supposed to be. Your brother's supposed to go into the family business. But then it sounds like you had another bubble of your world is church
Yes.
and sports, but your whole family's still tied into all that. So they did really protect you from it's almost like somebody lives outside of New York City and never knows about anything about New York City in a
Yes.
way. I mean, would you say that's comparable?
I was in a bubble, in a bubble, in a bubble. And they even put me in small private Christian school that only had 300 students for 7th through 12th. So I
Okay.
wasn't even in the public school. So I was in a bubble, in a bubble. When I say I went into the world with no life skills other than what dad taught me as far as taking care of the car, the house, the pool, the yard, like I had those skills, but as far as life skills and understanding anything about adulting whatsoever, zero.
Well, did that bubble last all the way through high school, or did it start to pop a little in middle school and then start to pop a little more in high school, or were you truly kept like
Truly kept until
all the
I
way
became a
through? Wow.
parent at 18.
I was gonna say you had to hit some rebellious point,
So wait,
right?
was the Christian school K through 12?
7 through 12.
Okay, so was elementary public?
Yes, I did public school in elementary. And that's the reason I skipped 6th grade. My mom didn't want me going to the public middle school, and the private school they wanted me in, and my brother was already there, didn't start until 7th grade. There was no 6th grade. So they had me test and they skipped me. So I went right from elementary school and a public school in 5th grade to a private school that was 7 through 12. And so I was 11 years old in school with
Yeah.
17 and 18-year olds.
Well, you were young.
Wow. Okay, but that's still okay. So was there any exposure to like in high school to alcohol, drugs, partying, sex, any of that stuff that kids typically start to experience during those years
No,
for
it
you?
was So taboo. I mean, I imagine my brother was probably drinking a little bit in high school, but he was so protective over me, or like he would have never told me. And
Mhm.
I never, to this day, I haven't seen a drug. Like it's just not something that has been in my surrounding. I had never seen
Right,
anything. I didn't know anything. Now I had boyfriends, so I rebelled in other ways.
right.
That was my channel of not rebellion, but just trying to find myself. I guess that's the
Yeah.
wrong word to use because that upbringing says it was rebellion or the shame, and now I just see, well, I was a teenage girl and wanted to meet people and have a social life, and I'm an extrovert and an entertainer, and I was put in a tiny, tiny, tiny box.
You were shushed big time, like, you're
Oh, I
shush,
was
shush, shush,
shushed.
shush, shush. So what about when you got your license? Like, did you kind of explore a little bit outside of that bubble, or were you just so used to your little world they created, you kinda
My
still
little
stayed in it?
world, and I had to go to work, so I got my license in my little car, and I was working at the pharmacy, and I was also working 2 days a week at family business doing filing, and when I say filing, that means actually where you pull all the cuticles off of your fingers because 'cause you're in the
Yeah,
filing cabinets, right?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
like, but I was
yeah.
filing, I was working, and then I had a babysitting hustle on the side. I had different families that would call me to babysit, so I was, like, running like 3 jobs just because it was a great outlet for me to be out of the house, I think, and find myself, but it was the hustle. I already
Was the
started
hustle
hustling then.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, because typical Gen X grind, but would you say the hustle was your only outlet
Yes.
outside of the bubble? It was
Yes.
it, was
Work.
the hustle.
Mhm.
So in a way, you kind of right away identified work as an escape or just to get away from this oppressive vibe you kind of grew up under. Does that
Yes, because then at least at work, and not when I was working at the family business, but when I was at work at my little pharmacy job, I loved it. I was meeting customers,
yeah.
I ran the cash register, had to do the little post office desk where you had to handwrite the certified receipt stuff
Oh
and
my
all that.
God.
I mean, I had to learn how to do that. The cash register did not do the math for you. You had to do the math yourself for
Oh,
the cash register for every
yeah.
purchase.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
Isn't it
kids would
amazing
fall
now?
over dead if I told them they had to do that.
Absolutely. I remember working a register and having to count backwards on the change, and you had to do it all in your head. Oh, but you're talking about even with I remember doing that. I worked somewhere where I had to write down like this is $1.12, this is 2.50, this is this, and then add it up and then tell the
Everything was
person
a hand receipt?
And then make the change so you could just
and
push
make
it,
the
the
change.
cash drawer would come out, but I had to
Yes.
make the
Yeah.
change, make sure it
I
was
totally
right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot
I can
about
still hear
that.
that sound,
Oh,
Totally forgot
and
about
then you
that.
close it.
and I'm
Yes.
16. I'm like,
And you
"Was I right? Is it 20 cents off? Am I okay?" I mean, it was
Yeah. Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh, well, they would tell you
well, they would
too.
fire you eventually
Or the
when they trued it all
customer,
out, yeah.
yeah, would definitely let you know. So was your only outlet for music the church then, or at home,
Yes.
or at school? Did school
School,
offer
I was in music,
anything?
I was in the a cappella group, so again, it was a Christian school, so it was still that same, but I was in the a cappella group and the choir, and I would always be the one that the teacher had direct the choir, like the music teacher would step aside and I was the one directing the rest of the full choir. So I loved it. I wanted to be performing, but it was still in that bubble. I didn't even know that I could sing music that wasn't Amy Grant. And I mean, not that it wasn't
Wow.
wonderful, but I didn't
Right.
know you could do this.
So
Did
did you not have MTV?
We did. Oh, I remember. Oh, I do remember that. If mom was in the other room watching her soap operas and after school and I had some time, I could go in and I discovered MTV. And it was just, I remember Aha's take on me in that video just being like
Yes.
blowing my mind. And I was just obsessed with the movies of the 80s. Today is the 40th anniversary of Pretty in Pink being released.
I know, I think they're releasing it in the theaters for the anniversary, at least
That's
around
just
here.
I just
Isn't that
lived
cool?
through those experiences in the Breakfast Club.
Yes.
I was allowed to watch, in Dirty Dancing. I felt like every bit of who I am and wanted to be, I think as an actress and as a performer, I could have done that. And I lived it and I would watch them over and over and over again. I would use some of mom's soap opera tapes so I could record, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would just watch them. And I remember just living through those stories and this other world that was so far, and those experiences, even seeing those 16 candles, those were all big high schools. I didn't even understand that experience, but I lived through those movies of the 80s, and still today one of those comes on, I'm very nostalgic because I feel like that allowed me to, at least through there, try to find out who I was and what I liked or what I resonated with, and understanding that it was okay to get angry or express yourself, like all of the different things that were taking place in these films, as silly as it was a huge impact on me. I was obsessed with, TV. I loved watching Family Ties and Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Like anything I could just watch and see these characters play out and live through was what I loved.
Because it probably helped you, like you just said, it resonated with you and helped you understand yourself. You probably got to know yourself through it
I did.
and also feel seen and understood because you maybe weren't in a situation where uh, any space was created for that. So it was through, it's amazing that you had full access to all of that
Yes.
because your world was so not that. It was the opposite and it was protected and sheltered. But yet you did have full access to entertainment via music, film, TV.
Yes.
So at least you had that.
I remember my
But
brother and I hiding Madonna and Beastie Boys from mom. Like she had no
yeah,
idea that that existed, and we had those cassettes like in his room, so that
Mhm.
we would hide those things. And I was one of those that spend a penny, get the first 50 records from the
Oh, yeah,
oh
yeah.
right.
yeah.
Same in the
And
house.
so I was like, I can do that, and I had my babysitting money, and I'm like figuring it out, and I would buy the cassettes, and they would show up at the house, and I was so excited. I had the Bengals, and I had the Thompson Twins, and that was just. Oh my gosh, Depeche Mode, Erasure, The Cure, like all of that was just so powerful and so fun.
Well,
I
I mean, I
probably still
think
owe them money. I don't know.
Oh, I think we all
They're
do.
coming to
We
get you.
all owe them
Yeah.
money. There's no question. I think it was such an outlet for all of us, like especially Gen X and their music. So and those movies and all of it, we all hold that so dear. But I'm thinking about it coming from your perspective. It would have been like 10 times more than the rest of us because that was your only exposure to like you said, a big high school or
Yes.
kids at a party or normal stuff that a lot of us did experience. You were not experiencing. So
No, that was my
for
drug.
you. Yes, yes. Now, did your mom ever see the tapes come into the house? Because they were
Yes, she
shipped
knew
to
I
the house.
had some tapes, and so there was a few of the groups, like I was allowed to once in a while put my Erasure cassette in her car if we were driving somewhere, and so she approved that. So we kept her from Run DMC and Madonna and Beastie Boys and
Yeah.
those things. But I was able to tastefully, like, these are okay, and that was fine, and I was able to listen to those. And we had those first Walkmans, so I could put that cassette
Oh,
in
yeah.
and just listen on my Walkman, and I loved that as well. Because my high school being a small school like that, we weren't even allowed to have dances. I mean, I was living the Footloose story, right? Like we
You
couldn't be,
were.
so that I didn't even have
No way.
dances.
So wait, was your town small though? Like
No,
how big was
I
your
was
town?
outside of LA. We were the high schools. If I'd gone to the public high school, oh my gosh,
Okay.
they
So it
had,
was really truly this creation of this small world
yes,
from
Was it
your parents,
yes.
basically.
was it more your mom, the strict one, or was your dad as well?
I see it now. I probably would have told you differently years ago, but now that I've come around full circle and watched all the family dynamics unfold, especially these last few years, I would say it was mostly mom. My dad worked so hard and had so much pressure at that business, and he was running everything. And he was putting in 12, 14-hour days. And I remember him coming home just exhausted. So I think my dad relied on my mom to be that and all those decisions. He really did allow her to make all those decisions. I used to really think that dad was the one that was dropping the hammer on stuff. And I think it was do what your mother says. I think my mom had a lot of all of the say in the household.
Now, did her approach to parenting, was that how she was raised? The way she raised you guys?
No, I don't. Her father was always gone and traveling the world. So
Mhm.
she had her mom and her brother.
Was her mom like that?
She doesn't talk about it. I
So
can't to
maybe
this day,
Yeah.
and I can't get her to talk about those emotional issues or growing up issues or communication issues. There's just you don't I don't.
How old is she?
She's going to be 86 next week.
So it makes me think because that's such a way of it's the basis for that type of parenting is control, obviously, and that's usually rooted in fear. You want to keep control, keep your children safe. If you can control all the things, then your children will be fine. And it's giving the parent security and helping them feel like okay with parenting. So I'm wondering if that was from her mom. If her mom wielded total control even more severely than your mom did, like maybe she wasn't allowed music or maybe she had nothing. Because where would that have come from to feel the need to create this
Yeah.
space, you know?
And
I don't
I
know.
don't. And my mom's brother, oh God, I adored him. My uncle, he never had kids, and we were very close. And I used to go and spend time with him. He lived on the coast and had a home right there on the water. And even as a teenager, my mom would let me go out there and spend a week or two with him. And I just remember how close we were. And he was hilarious. He was fun. He was great. So I don't know. And he was
Yeah.
totally open. You could talk to him about anything. So there was just the two of them, brother and sister. I'm not sure. And she's never told me. There's a lot of mysteries with my ancestry, a lot of mystery
Mm.
that I've been unpacking now for years because I've completely changed the narrative of who I am as a mom. And that those generational things, they stopped with me, hands
Yeah.
down. But I
Yeah.
don't know. And I have to live with not knowing and be okay and be thankful that I did change the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's your closure.
Yes.
That is your closure. Is that you broke the whatever was going on with the generational, I'm not
Yes.
going to call it trauma, but you broke it, the cycle. You
Yes.
broke that. So then growing up in this bubble, was college ever discussed? Was it like were they going to let you then go out in the world on your own to college?
No, and I bring this up often, especially with my youngest in her fourth year at UCSD. I'm like, it wasn't even an option. I wasn't even made to take the SAT. I don't know what was the plan for me. I look back now and go, "Wait, there was never a Now my brother went straight off to a 4-year university, had a soccer scholarship, and he was groomed for being a provider, right? I was not.
Wow.
It was not an option. So I know, okay, I had a baby the next year, but I would have had to have done the SAT, applied for college, and been accepted before Ryan ever even came about. So that didn't happen until after graduation. So that one had nothing to do with the other. I really
Right.
had nothing. My mom, I remember after graduation, she opened the phone book. And for those of you watching, it's this thing that was about this big, and it was yellow, and it had anything you needed to find was in there, and you had to search.
The
And
original Google.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember her opening up to the different employment agencies and said, okay, go find a job. And I remember finding a minimum wage job as a data entry clerk in some office. Could not be more opposite of what my personality is and what I should be
Right.
doing. There are so many
Right.
other things that could have been that I could have done. Didn't even know that
Now,
was an option.
were kids in your school though taking the SAT? Were kids going to college? What or was it
Yes.
okay?
I had a few. There was a few of my friends from high school that went on to college, but not as many as you would see today. I mean, when our kids, it was all about, have you applied? How many did you
Yeah.
put in for? Everybody's talking about it. We had college coach, all the thing, the FAFSA,
Right.
all the stuff. It wasn't discussed. I don't
So
know.
it's so interesting because your brother did go to college.
Yes.
And then so he had to have gone through all those things. He had to have taken the SAT and applied and everything.
Yes.
Did you at all ever ask like when do I do this or where am I, or was it just so ingrained that you were not going that you didn't even voice
I didn't
concerns
even
about it?
voice, and I was so young and dumb. I wasn't thinking, "Gosh, if I don't do this, what the heck am I going to do in the next couple years? What's my life going to look like?" I was just like, "Do all right, well."
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I was like, "Oh, good, I don't have to take a test. Yay! I hate taking tests." I was smart, but I
Yes.
hated doing school. I wanted to do the
Right.
bare
Right.
minimum to get the A, so I could skate through. My brother had to study really hard to get his grades. Like he really worked hard because he had some learning disability and he had to work hard. I could be like, okay, I'll read that for an hour. I'll pass the test. Fine. So I felt like this entitlement. I think that, well, good. I don't have to. Nobody's making me. All right, we'll see
Right.
what's next. And I didn't know there were choices. If I had known I could be excited about going to a film school or a school of the arts, oh my gosh, I would have done that.
I'm just picturing all this potential because
Let me
you have all
go.
this talent musically and you're incredibly bright, right? So, but you had no guidance and no one was there empowering you.
No.
So it's just it's so interesting. So you graduate, you get this job as a data entry clerk,
Mhm.
and you're living at home
I
still.
was living at home. Yes.
And that was just going to kind of be your existence. Did you continue to sing like in the church and
No,
everything?
I'd stopped then. I wasn't singing. I was just I had my one high school friend. We were hanging out a little bit, but still, I had like an 11 o'clock curfew. I mean, and even high school I had a 10 o'clock curfew. So I still really wasn't allowed out. And I remember going out to my uncle's and staying with him for like a month, I think, before I took the job in data entry. And then by September, I was pregnant.
So was that a boyfriend?
Yes, it was a friend that I had met through my brother. The
Mm.
When I was still a senior and he was older. And then it quickly became very toxic and very abusive. And I didn't understand abuse. I didn't understand to speak up. I didn't know you could. There was no Me Too movement. There was none of that. Right.
Right.
And so I was so worried about being in trouble. n- And I remember wanting to run away and my mom being mad. This was all like right after that graduation. And then she said, fine, then go. And I think I left. He lived in the same neighborhood and I went to his house. But it was a very violent, very scary, um, very abusive situation. And so I finally got the nerve to leave. I got away from him and back home. And I remember then telling my brother, I'm afraid he's going to kill me. And I remember hiding in my brother's room for a few days for protection. And then he finally went away. He stopped stalking me for whatever reason. He let me go. And then I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my goodness. So you went to his place, you ended it, got back home and basically hid for a few days in
Yes.
fear.
Yes.
I'm assuming your brother had words with him, I
No,
would
he never
assume.
did. He wanted
Okay,
to, and I
interesting.
think that, his other friend said, "Don't, you'll just get in a fight." They were like, "Don't do it, just let
Yeah,
him
yeah,
go."
yeah.
And we let him go, and then that's when I found out that I was pregnant.
So did you tell anyone or did you keep it a secret for a while?
I told my parents, which, oof,
Yeah. I mean, considering
my
the
upbringing.
talk about popping the bubble.
Yes.
So
Whoa.
did you tell them both at the same time or did you tell your mom
I don't
first?
remember. That's a big, dark blackout time for me. I honestly do not remember. I've blocked a lot of that time out. But I can tell you what
Okay.
did happen was I know that they along with my brother, because my brother was like another parent. So my parents consulted with my brother, the older sibling, to decide what was going to be best for me in this
Oh my goodness.
patriarchy. And they all decided that we needed to terminate the pregnancy, which they said, we're never going to tell anybody. We're going to sweep this under the rug because that's a no-no in the Baptist church, of course. And you don't, but there was no way that they were going to have me do this. So my mom actually took me to the Planned Parenthood and
Wow.
I was next to go in. I had signed everything away. I was in the scrubs, the booty, the gown, the whole thing. And I remember sitting in that room with the other girls in there, and some of them, they were saying this was, their third time or whatever. And I remember just going from the complete bubble girl to what the heck just happened, and not even identifying that I had just come out of that kind of abuse. Like I didn't even understand what had happened. And the nurse called me out and said, Amy, and they brought me to the side and said, "You're not pregnant, go home."
Interesting. So they had done a test
Yeah,
while you were waiting?
several, several.
And they blood tests
I
or the
don't
urine?
remember. I
You
honestly
don't
don't
remember that?
remember.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
blur. It was so long
So
ago. I'm old now.
so according to them,
According to them, they said, if you still feel like you are, you can come back in 2 weeks. And I can tell you, Ryan's almost 35 years old now.
so what happened? I mean, did you never
I
go back? I
I
mean,
went
was it
back
just
in and my mom's like, "What are you doing here so fast?" Because I came back out to the waiting room so quick, and
right.
I said, "They said I'm not pregnant." And I remember at that time she said, "I know you are. You and I both know you are." She goes, "Okay, well then there's a purpose for this child. You'll have the baby." So she stood up for me then and said,
Wow.
I will stand up to your dad and I will tell him that clearly there's a plan for the life of this child, and all right, we'll walk you through it." So
How did Oh, go ahead, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so that started that. There you go.
So
That's
how did
remarkable.
it is, it
Yeah.
absolutely
Wow.
is. 2 questions. First is, because you were raised in a fairly religious
Oh, yes.
upbringing,
Yes.
how did you and you may not remember this, but how did you reconcile them wanting to terminate the pregnancy when that would be so against how you were
Because I
raised?
was
Was that
terrified of the shame and the punishment. There
okay?
was so much here. I mean, imagine what was going on inside my mind and body, and I've just come out of abuse, and this has happened, and I'm
Right.
pregnant. I don't even understand. I didn't take any of these classes in school. Like, what the heck is going on? And then so afraid of my parents because I'm just a kid. I was still 17. I was a kid
Of
because remember I
course.
had skipped a
Of
grade. I
course.
graduated
Yeah, you
early.
graduated early.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yes.
even 18 yet. And so
Yeah.
like they say this is what I have to do. Okay, well then it'll just be our family secret and then I can start my life, whatever that looks like. And
So then for you, for your family, keeping the persona of the family and not shaming the family
Mhm.
overrode the religion you were taught your whole
Yes.
life. Yes. Isn't that interesting? How when it
And
comes
we have
like
discussed in
yeah,
recent years that I was ready to talk about this because I never shared this at all ever, especially publicly, until just the
right.
last few years. And thankfully my mom was like, no, I'm okay. If it helps another family, it's okay. Tell the truth. We were wrong then. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that, that kind of thing. So it is okay for me to share this because that's just where everybody was at that time. And it was, 1990 and there you go.
I think, yeah, no, I think that was normal to, you're living one way, but if something like that happens, you're going to still protect the reputation of the family. And I
Yes.
think that was very normal then. But had you experienced any abuse up until that boyfriend in your life?
No, no,
Okay, so then you went into that completely blindly too, and like you said, you had no idea
no
it was
idea.
even really abuse
No idea.
when it was happening to you. So you're dealing with double trauma here.
Yes.
You've got you've got you're a survivor of abuse, and now you're pregnant. Um, was the abuse ever? Did anyone ever discuss that you had been abused? Was that ever
No,
acknowledged in any
not
way?
in not until really the last few years in therapy.
Okay, all right. So that was just kind of like, okay, push that aside,
Yep.
bury that, compartmentalize it.
Because
Now
everything
you
now is about Ryan. Everything.
right. Yes.
That's it.
So you're pregnant. Okay. And did you continue to work while you were
Oh,
pregnant as
yes.
the data
And I
entry
was
clerk?
and they took me in at the family business, and I remember what that was for my dad to have me working as a phone answerer and a filing person in the family business while pregnant. That was my dad's growth year. That was a big deal because he was the one that wasn't even going to look at me like, nope, you're not bringing that baby home to this house. Like it was absolutely, and he started taking me on his lunch break every day. He'd take me to lunch and we would just sit there and share a sandwich and it was quiet. And then we eased our way through. And it's interesting. We just had this Valentine's Day. I remember when it turned because it was Valentine's Day and I'm about 4 or 5 months along now, 4 months along. And my dad came home with a gift for me he had gone to the maternity store and bought me clothes. I knew that
Oh,
that was his way of saying, okay, I'll walk you
yes.
through this.
Yes. That's wonderful. So
Yeah.
you did have both your parents' support
Yes.
by the time your son was born
Yes. He was
and your
very
brothers.
kind of.
Okay.
We've
So he
never
was
repaired.
struggling with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But my
What was
parents adored uh, they adore Ryan.
so what do you think your brother's issue was with it?
I don't know. We'd have a whole other podcast on that one.
Okay. Okay. No, but that okay. Okay.
I
So you
don't know.
all right.
We've just never been connected since, and it's okay. He has his life, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Okay. Okay.
You guys were probably fairly close up until then because
Very,
he was your third parent, right?
very.
Oh,
And
that's too
okay.
bad.
So that's
Right.
a third trauma to the situation if you really think about it. But you had your parents' support, and so when you brought Ryan home, I assume that was to your
My
childhood home. You were
childhood
still
home, my
living.
childhood
Okay.
bedroom, where my Barbie house used to be, had a crib now. Yes.
And what was it like when they handed Ryan to you, though? Were
Oh,
you how did it change you?
I had a grueling, horrific labor with him. It went on way too long. And I had back labor. I was in crisis. The doctor, they did not give me any epidural,
Mm.
anything at all. And I was about 30 hours of him on my spine. And I never dilated past 3. So they finally took him in an emergency C-section. So there's trauma number 4. So by the
Yeah.
time I was blacking out, by the time they finally took me for the C-section, I was like blacking out. And after the surgery, I think I was I think it was probably 9 or 10 hours before I finally, like, they came in and I was awake and said, I want to meet my baby. So it was really, really traumatic.
I mean, it's insane that they let you go that long, please.
It was,
I mean, it's that's crazy.
and that
They wouldn't
same
let
doctor, when they released me 3 days later, because I had the C-section, I remember when he
yeah.
came in to do my release pages, he was this old guy, and he said, don't let me see you back here in a year, okay?
Oh, so I wonder if this was some BS punishment crap in a
Yeah,
way, like some subconscious,
I'll make her
let this be a
suffer.
nightmare.
Let her
Yeah,
learn her
yeah, yeah,
lesson.
yeah. Because that would never happen now, my God.
Can you
What it
But
imagine?
no,
That's
no,
crazy.
no, there'd be
There'd be
somebody
an
would
attorney
sue
involved.
somebody.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, because that is truly true torture.
But here
That
we
is
go
just
back to that time, things like that could happen. Who's going to say anything? Didn't even realize it was something to say. Why didn't my parents say something? Like, where was my advocate?
absolutely. It's like a violation. That was a violation on you for sure. Gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so they hand him to you. You're still have had this huge traumatic birth. So, was it really until you got home when you started to kind of take in the whole I'm
Yes.
a mother to this child
Yes, and
and
recovering from a C-section. I mean, I've just been sliced
yeah,
in half. I mean, I mean, it
yeah.
was just so much trauma to my poor little 18-year-old body. But I
Yes.
remember he was just so sweet. And I went, okay, buddy, I guess it's you and me. Let's figure this out. And I knew that we were going to grow up together. I just knew it. And I just immediately was like, all right, little guy. Okay, I'm asking your forgiveness now for whatever's about to happen, but we got this.
Well, it's so true. In any circumstances, when you have children young, I wasn't as young as you by any means, but I was 26. But I can tell you,
Oh
my
gosh.
last one I had at 39, and I'm a totally different mother at
Oh,
39 than I
oh.
was at 26.
We were kids raising
Yeah,
kids.
I
Well,
was a
especially when
kid.
we were
you were a kid
23.
raising a kid. So,
Yeah.
it's almost that what you just said, forgive me in
Yeah.
advance for what I might do because it's so true. You didn't know what was about to happen or any of that. So, and your upbringing had been very protected. So it's not like you even had a lot of exposure to bringing home a baby and what
Exactly.
a mother needs to do. You
Well,
kind
what
of,
you were about to do was so different than what you grew up in.
Yes.
Your whole right.
There was no
The word.
modeling for this. There was
Yeah. Yeah.
no
no.
roadmap. I even teased Ryan the other day. He's so sweet and he's got his wife and his little baby. His first baby's a year old, right? And he's like,
Oh.
"Mom, I'm tired and it's hard and all this stuff." I went, "Please. How old are you?" I'm like, "You're 34." Okay. So how would you like to have you were 16 when I was 34. Would you like to be dealing with a you right now? He goes, "Ew." I'm like, just saying.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And there were three
So we
more. It wasn't just you.
right, right, right. So how long were you home with him? Did you end up going back to work for the family business
Oh,
or were
yes,
you
I
able
had to
to
be back to work 8 weeks later. As soon as the C-section time, the state disability gives you 6 weeks for natural birth, 8 week for a C-section. On the first day after week 8, my mom wanted me to make sure that I didn't get too comfortable or have to or feel that this was okay. So she said, "You need to work." And she also said that she wouldn't watch him. So I had to have a babysitter outside of. So he had to go to babysitting and I had to go to work and then pick him up. And as if I was in an apartment by myself, she wanted me to have kind of that tough love. So it was,
wow, girl, you were not getting a break.
no, no.
Gee. Like you grinded as a Gen Xer, but on a totally different level than so many of us. I mean, we all have our own experiences, and I'm not belittling anyone's experience,
Sure.
but it was handed to you, man. Like you really had to figure stuff out for you to have a babysitter outside of where your mom's home, and she's telling you at 8 weeks she won't even watch the baby. Like that's a harsh
It
reality.
was
So how long did that go
That
on?
went on for a year and a half, and I mean, I was literally making $4 an hour answering phones all day, and I went, this is crazy. I couldn't even afford the formula. Like I was just going, this is crazy. And
Yeah.
I I don't know if you guys remember because this was a total 80s thing. And you're back east, so I don't know if they had them then, but there was this restaurant called Bobby McGee's. And all of the waiters and waitresses, they dressed up in characters and you had to be in characters. So whenever I did get to do something fun. When I was younger, we'd go there for my birthday. And then when
Okay.
my girlfriend and I, if we could get a night out, when her mom would watch Ryan, and we would go to Bobby McGee's and have dinner, because it was such a fun place. And it had just the restaurant, and then there was like a nightclub, which I could never get into, but it was a really fun place. And I remember going, that's where I want to work. I want to work there.
Yeah.
And so I went, I'm going to make it happen. And so we were in there, and I asked one of the waiters, how do you get a job here? Well, you have to audition, and it's this and it's that. Okay, I'm fine with that. And I actually applied, and I auditioned, and I just sold my butt off. They were like, do you have any table waiting experiences? Not whatsoever. And I'm the biggest klutz you'll ever meet, but I can entertain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they said, okay, we'll take a chance on you. And I quit the family business to go work at this restaurant that was dinner only. So now I could be home during the day with Ryan. And then my mom agreed, okay, I'll watch him. So I could go to work at 4 o'clock for the night shift, and I'd get off at like 2 in the morning. So she only had to watch him really from 4 till she put him to bed at 7. And then
Yeah.
and then I was able to do that. And that was what I call my Gen X college years. Everybody I worked with was in college. They were in college and working and doing that to get themselves through. I was the only non-college one, but I was all their age. And so
Right.
this was the
Right.
first time that I met like the most fun, and these people were fun and crazy. Like one of the guys was getting appearances on Seinfeld. Like they were actors. Like it was like, oh my gosh, this really exists. These people are so much fun. I'm still friends with them to this day. And it opened everything up. I wore a costume where I was a Native American, and my name was
Yeah.
Princess Running Mouth, and I loved it. I had a bow and arrow. Anything went in that restaurant. You could stand on the tables. I mean, it was crazy, wild, and fun. And I finally got to have that fun at that job. And I
That's
loved
amazing.
it. I still
Was
have the
that your
costume.
that is
That's
amazing.
hilarious.
Now, but was that your first time,
Having fun? Yes.
right? Having fun. But you had stopped singing, you had stopped entertaining, you had gone through all these levels of trauma as we just discussed. Was that your first time back at entertaining since you had stopped?
Yes.
So, oh my god, it had to have been like almost like a drug, a dopamine
Oh my
hit
God. We were
because
singing,
the
we were
happiness.
improv. You had to be funny. You were paid to be funny. Now, I was a horrible waitress those first 6 months. I mean, honestly, embarrassingly so. But I figured it out, and they almost fired me. They're like, if she does not get it together, we cannot keep her. And I finally, like, it clicked, and I learned how to
Yeah.
work the station, right? And I could get 10 plates up my arm and built my strength. I'm like, I better learn this. You know what's funny is, because of my upbringing, the hardest part for me of that job was learning all of the alcohols and the drinks. I didn't know what a gin was. I didn't know what a vodka was. I didn't know what a tonic. I didn't know anything. I didn't know the difference between bottled and draft. I didn't know wines. I knew nothing. So here I had to take orders, and I had to memorize when they'd say, well, what do you have? You know, what's on tap, and what vodkas do you have? Huh? I had to
Yeah.
memorize
What's that
something
mean?
that I
Yeah.
didn't even know and never even heard of.
Wow. I
That was
mean,
the hardest part.
that's amazing, but it was such a sanctuary. It was such heaven
Oh my
for you, for that
God.
part of your soul
Yes.
that you're like, I'm learning it. I'm learning. I'll figure this out. I'm not losing this job. I'm just thinking that was God sent,
It
honestly, that
was.
job for you because you had been through so much, and then it's just this perfect job for you. You get to entertain. You get an outlet for your singing, your entertaining.
Yes.
Did you guys sing?
Oh
Did
yeah,
you
we
sing?
sang all night. We would just make up songs. I would just walk
Yeah.
around the restaurant singing. People would ask you to sing, like, okay, do a song. And then the other servers would come in, and we'd harmonize. And the cowboy, he had this giant stand-up bass he'd walk around with in the restaurant. And so Cowboy and the Indian, and we had
Wow.
all kinds of songs together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We had a ball. And it was that college I didn't get to some degree. It was the
Right.
socialization I didn't get in high school. It was that time period that etched so much for me, that I found out that I was funny. I didn't know I was that funny. And I didn't know that I could come alive like that. And it was just so unrestricted. It was like no other restaurant. It's a shame they all closed down, but it was like no other place. And it's a piece of time that I will always treasure. And all the coworkers that were so good to me. Well, some of them were tough on me at first, but they were so good to me. And
Yeah. Well, it gave you a space though to even blossom and figure out you were funny. You had never had space to even let that part of yourself out, you
no,
know? So how long did you work there?
a couple of years. I turned 21 in that place.
Oh,
And
that's
Oh, wow.
did you drink?
no, I never ever would drink because I always had to finish work or pick up Ryan or take care of Ryan. And I
Yeah,
never
responsibility.
drank
Yeah.
because I had a kid at home. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you said you would get home at 2. So when would you sleep? Would you only be running on like 4 hours, 5 hours
Yeah,
of sleep? Because
you're
then
21.
he
Everybody else was too.
yeah,
I just, right?
Yeah.
true.
It's no different than everybody in
True.
college. And during that time, shortly after starting that job, is when I moved out of my parents' home and actually got my first little apartment. And
Okay.
so I made twice as much waiting tables than I did working all those hours from 7 to 5, 7 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, minimum wage answering
Yeah.
phones. I was getting good tips because I was entertaining, right? So
Yeah.
I was able
Yeah.
to do that. I was able to get a little apartment. And so then Ryan would be with my parents. And then I would get off at 12, 1, 2 in the morning, whenever it was, depending on the day of the week, drive there, pick him up in the sleep, drive back to my apartment, keep him asleep, and then lay him down in his crib in my apartment, then go to sleep, then get up with him and be with him during the day.
So how was it having your little place with just the 2 of
Oh
you?
my God, it was so fun. It was so nice. We have such he remembers. We have really good memories of that time of just the loud music. We would, we'd turn up the music and he had his little toy guitar and he'd be dancing and I just and I loved it. We only had a wall on the phone. Nobody could reach you on a cell phone. There was just
Yeah.
a different time then that
Yeah.
that life wasn't as hard as it is today. It was hard. I mean, I'd have to go to the grocery store with the $12 we had and we'd make it work. And okay, you get mac and cheese this week. And next week, you're going to get meat. That's okay. But
Yeah.
we made it work. And I remember it not being hard like it was later.
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes if the hard part of it comes from with technology and with knowing what everyone's doing and um this the persona of you should have everything and you should have all the things
Yes.
and your house should look like this and your clothes should look like this and your children should be doing this. When we were growing up, we didn't have access to all of this comparison is the thief of
No.
joy stuff going on. So you could come home and snuggle with your little one and have whatever pasta that night and watch Family Ties.
Yeah.
And they just lived in a normal home and had normal clothes on and everything felt normal. Whether you had everything back then or didn't have a lot, there wasn't this feeling of feeling without, I guess.
Yes.
You were still able to be happy for just happiness sake. And I think as things progress, there's just always that, well, you need to have this, so you need to be doing this, And so I feel like that's what's stolen that just organic peace of mind and soul of just being happy with where you're at.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Because we have information
Oh,
overload now. And then we didn't know what we didn't know. I mean,
yeah,
we didn't know what we didn't
exactly.
know. That phone on the
Because I'm
wall with the
picturing,
cord that only went so far, and if
yes,
it couldn't go any farther, sorry, I gotta hang up. I gotta go over there and do something. Sorry, I gotta change the
Yeah.
laundry. Gotta hang
Put it
up.
on.
Yeah, it just
Mhm.
and it was
it was a,
okay.
it was a simple, it was just simple. It was,
Everybody could relate to that.
yes,
I reached the end of the cord. All
Yes.
yes.
right. See ya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, and not having everyone having access to everyone 24/7. That's
Yes.
exhausting,
Yes.
So, and not having something to scroll on all of that. But so you were in that apartment for how long with
I was
him?
there for a couple years. And I actually met at that job, I met someone and we got married a year later. And so
Okay,
and then we were in that apartment until then we moved to a little house and started that's when I started that part. And he took Ryan on as his own. He fell in love with Ryan on the first minute, and Ryan adored him. They still do. That is his dad. And
oh, that's
that's all
wonderful.
he ever knew. And they are closer than anything. And I'm so thankful. So I ended up marrying then by 22 because that's what you do, right?
Right, right.
I was still waiting tables, so I stopped. We got married, and I still worked for a little bit. And then by the time I was 24, then we had Jeff, and
Okay.
at 26, I had Matt.
So, you said you worked for a little bit.
Mhm.
Then were you a stay-at-home mom?
Then I was the stay-at-home mom once I had Jeff.
Okay.
So it's you and 4 boys now.
3.
No, 3, right?
Yeah, Ryan, Jeff,
Ryan,
and Matt. Frick, frack, and Jack.
right.
But then
Yes.
your husband.
And
Oh, well,
oh
yeah.
yeah, oh him too. Okay.
We do matter.
Yeah, well, and you are like children a lot of times, but
Yes.
okay, so for you being a stay-at-home mom, you've been grinding like crazy all these years. Did did you find it to be kind of a reprieve just to be able to be
I
home with your
did.
boys?
I did. And
Okay.
like you, I didn't sit. I didn't watch the TV. I was
Yeah.
involved in every play group and this. I homeschooled Ryan for kindergarten. I was, singing at the church again, like in the worship band, and had friends everywhere. And we like had park days and play dates and science days. And I was always
Yeah.
hustling and going. And it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. When I was in soccer, we'd been out at the soccer field. I was the team mom. I mean, I ran it, right? The house was
Right.
run like a business, everything in order all the time. I really did like it, and I loved getting to have that time with them. And
And
I
did
had two
you
more C-sections, so that was fun.
right. But not as traumatic, I assume, as
No, they were
right.
scheduled, thank God. But still.
Yes. Yeah, but still. So,
Yes, by the time I was 26, 3 C-sections and 3 kids.
geez, girl. Oh my gosh. So did you find, because you said you broke that generational cycle, did you find that you put a huge effort into exposing them to all things and everything and not having them be in a bubble?
Not yet. That actually that came later. I was still in the bubble. I still was in what I knew, not as bad, but I
Okay.
was still, I mean, I was more lighthearted and fun and totally involved and play on the floor with that. Like I was in, they weren't out swimming in a pool by themselves,
Right.
like I was I was more involved for sure,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
wasn't
Yes.
out of the bubble yet. Not yet.
Okay. And you were singing in the church,
Yes, yes. Yes.
but was that still your only outlet for
That was my
music? Was
only
the
outlet for
church?
music. That was it. That was it.
Okay, so did something shift? Because I know you are a singer, you're a Nashville singer. So what
Yes.
when did that shift, or are there a lot of things that happen before you
The
get to that
next the
point?
next flip was at 29. Unfortunately, he and I divorced. We were young. Honestly, we're the best of friends to this day. I adore his wife. We are all good. There is no drama, right? So
That's
it's
wonderful.
like we both go, yeah, we were young and stupid. I mean, I take responsibility, right? We divorced. I was 26
Right.
years old with 3 kids. What did I know? So got in a stupid fight. Ah, it's done. Ah, that was
Yeah.
that. So I then realized now I was a single mom with 3 kids, and I had the house, and my favorite uncle that I used to stay with, he had passed away during that time, and he left me an inheritance to buy a house. So we had bought a small home in outside of LA, with that inheritance. And
That's
so, of course,
wonderful.
my ex was like, "Yeah, that's your house." Of course, he was like, "Great, no big deal." So I had the home, but I had to pay for it and the boys. So I went out and started hustling. Realized I got to find work. Wait a minute. Now, when I realized that I didn't have career, I didn't have education, I had no resume except for a
Yeah.
job at Bobby McGee's and answering some phones, right? So I went,
Right.
"Uh-oh," and I started hustling, and I realized within the first month that it definitely takes money to keep those lights on and pay that mortgage and to put gas in the car. And I hustled. I met somebody who had these, and you're gonna laugh. I swear is what we did then. They were these like the new big latte machines, like at the gas station when you could make the latte and all the different
Yeah.
coffee stuff. I literally was going like door to door gas stations to sell those because then I could make a commission.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
commercial
It was
equipment.
commercial equipment, so I'm
That's
like,
yeah,
I
that's
needed
Commercial
to
sales.
bring in
commercial
money, right? I
sales.
gotta figure it out
Yeah,
while I
yeah,
figure
yeah.
it out. And so
Yeah.
I did that, and I had, somebody watching the boys, and then one of the places that I went to try to sell a coffee machine, I remember the guy looking at me, he was not much older than me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "You're tenacious, like, you've got drive, you're good at sales." He goes, "Why are you selling this?" I'm like, and he goes, "Come into my office, I'll teach you everything I know."
Wow.
So, and he was a mortgage lender. So he brought me in and started teaching me about mortgage. I'm like, okay. And I remember sitting there like, okay, well, now I'm just cold calling on his phone. I'm still not making any money, but he was great. I mean, I'll never forget him doing that. And there was another guy in that office that walked in one day with a Post-it, and he said, "I want you to call this phone number. I already told him you have 5 years experience. I want you to call it. I want you to take this job and don't look back. Go feed your boys." And this guy gave me a number that I called. I didn't even know. And it was another lender, a bank. And I got an interview with this woman, the first woman to come into my life that was just amazing and showed career and everything. And she was a single mom with 3, cancer survivor in her 30s. And
Wow.
I sat in front of her and I finally went, "They lied to you. I have no experience. I don't know this industry at all. And I just had to come clean." And she goes, "I like you. I'm going to take a chance on you. I'll teach you everything I know. That was my first big girl job that had a salary, car allowance. I was going to be a wholesale sales rep for all of Southern California for Citibank.
Wow. And it was given to you by another woman.
Yes, from a post-it from another guy, from a guy who I was trying to sell a coffee machine to.
Yeah. So those two guys deserve their dues
Oh my
because
God.
Why can't it just be connections?
Yeah, it is. But I love that this woman was obviously an amazing example for you. And like you said, the first real example of a woman that's working, that's hustling, that is a single mom and is doing the thing to the point where you respect her so much, you were like, I got to come clean. As badly as I need this job for my children, I've got to come clean. And she was like, I'm still gonna do it. I mean, that's a girl's girl, man. That's awesome.
And we're still friends to this day. She gave me that chance, and I was so grateful for what she did for me and for the boys that 6 months later, I was the #1 rep in the country. And I hustled. And this was during the mortgage boom. Now we're in 2000, 2001, 2002. I hustled. And that is when I then joined a cover band that was country music. And I became a lead singer. So I'm working during the day and I'm driving around. The boys, were in their daycare. I'd pick them up, and next thing you know, we're at a big concert in the park, and Ryan's watching his brothers on a blanket, and mommy's got to sing tonight. And it was all family events, and the fairs and the concerts in the park, and just the good community shows. And that's when I got back on stage. That's when that happened, where I became a front runner with the Silverados. It was a girl I had known from childhood, and she said, we have an open spot. You want to sing? Yes. So it's like I was the reverse country song here. I finally had a job. I was making money. I was paying for the house. I was paying for the kids. I was paying their daycare. I was feeding them, and I was performing. And it was so much fun.
So was this 6 months? So 6 months, you're the #1 sales rep. Which is obviously from not just your hustle, your charisma,
Yes.
Your talent. That takes a lot of talent.
Yes.
You obviously connect with people, you read people well. So from your inherent talent, which I'm sure is what this woman saw in you, her gut instinct was like, she's going to do great. But 6 months in, you become the #1 sales rep. And then when did this friend say, we have an
all
opening?
at the same time, like right away. It was all happening in the same month.
Wow.
Like I started working, singing, everything clicked all at that exact same time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what was it like? Because this would have been your first time. You sang in church, you helped at school with choir, you entertained at that really awesome job. But was this your first time on like a real stage?
On bigger stages with a full band that was like, yes, with the huge audience, and it was all cover music, but it was a blast. It was.
Were you nervous the first time?
No, I never. No.
Okay, so you don't have stage fright.
No, yeah.
Do you remember the first show? Like walking out for the first time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Resonate?
I was like, all right, let's do this. Okay, we got this. It was songs I knew, and it was just, I just remember that high and just loving it and saying, okay, finally, took a while, but at least I've got this. I didn't care, and I still had the aspiration and the dream that I wanted to be in Nashville someday or have that opportunity to record. But at this point, to be a single mom at 29 with the 3 kids and doing this, I mean, I was literally changing Matt's diaper behind the stage before going on. And then I'd pass him to his brother. Here, I would throw money from the stage. Go get your brother an ice cream. It's like, so.
I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. What an inspiration! Because you think about your background and then what you went through, and all the levels of trauma, and then finding this awesome job, and then doing the married stay-at-home thing, and then being the single mom and finding such success monetarily in your career, but then still going for your dream, which is really what lights up your soul, lights up your heart, other than your children, obviously.
Yes.
The strength, and I'm not just gonna say it's because I want to say it's because you're Gen X. We're awesome. That's part of it.
It is. It's Gen X.
It is. But the strength in you to still honor you and what your real desire and happiness was. Because a lot of women would have been like, I'm doing good. I'm making money. We're doing good. So let's just everything's kind of stable. But you still chose, I'm still going to take a chance and get up on that stage.
Yes.
And follow my dream. That's such an inspiration. It really, I hope you know that.
Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
amazing
And I
that
had
you
no
did that.
idea the different corners that would turn. It was during that time, so 2004. My parents by this point had bought one of those massive, you do this, massive RV, and now they are going to go see the countryside all the time, and they were always gone in their RV. Well, one of the
Yeah.
times in their RV, they were in Nashville, and I went, I'll fly out and meet you. The boys are with their dad for the weekend. I'll fly out and meet you for the weekend. So I flew to Nashville because I'd never been and always wanted to see it. And that since young, with my dad saying, I want you to do this someday, I remember weeping at the Ryman Auditorium, going, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be here. Like, this is just,
Mm.
oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be here. And it was another one of those, like, I have such weird little crazy moments where it just connections, right? We
Yeah.
go to lunch after the Ryman, and there was this nice gentleman waiting for a table as well with my parents. And he strikes up a conversation with my dad, and everything was, we're like, oh, hi, where are you from? And then he goes, hey, why don't you join us? And so we did, we joined him. Well, he had an office right there on Music Row. He's a song plugger, and he pitches the songs to the artists. And he says, and my mom's like, yeah, she's a singer. Anyways, we ended up at his office. He pitches songs. The next thing you know, we're over at a studio, and I meet Chip Martin, one of the amazing producers there in Nashville. And the next thing you know, I spend the summer of 2004 flying back to Nashville to start recording
No. And that was and how
while
soon
working
after
still.
while working? So how long had you been doing the cover band gig before you flew out to Nashville?
2.5 years, 3 years, 3 years.
Okay, so you're doing the cover band, you're still selling, and then you take this trip out to Nashville,
Yeah.
and then this opportunity literally
Yes.
lands in
Change
you. I
your
meant talk about meant to be. There's no
It was meant,
question.
and I recorded the song "The Mia Meant to Be" during that season. It was interesting. So and this is where it gets
Wow.
this is where it gets a little sticky, and you're gonna go, oh, Amy, you were so close, so close. There's those times you're like, so close. I had met someone through my work here in Southern California, and we started dating, and all of that. So right as I realized it's time, I really need to I got to try to do this. And the boys' dad had agreed, hey, I'll take them, and we'll start school here so you can go back and forth to Nashville. Amy, you got to do this. He was so supportive.
Wow.
So I
That's
decided it's
awesome.
time. Let's make that trip, and let's live both places. I really want to be in Nashville more. And it was on that road trip I found out I was pregnant again. And
Okay.
yeah, so
With the guy.
yeah, so we got
Okay.
yes. So
Were you dating him, or was he kind of just
yes, very much
okay?
so. And his family's wonderful, and all of this. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And I remember he had family that lived there that we were going to stay with, and he's like, you just realized you just ruined her career. You blew it, right? And the manager who had found this opportunity for me, the song plugger James, and he was like, you blew it, you blew it, you blew it. I mean, at the time, I was like literally setting meetings with Capitol Records and Sony, like everything was starting to come together, like it was really going to happen. And I had ended up on bed rest with her. I was the dog.
Yeah.
I was back in California, stopped all plans to move to Nashville, and got ready for baby number 4.
Now, if you had had a more easier pregnancy, like had still been able to just keep going, would they
Possibly,
have honored it? Would they have,
possibly. But when I say this child made me sick, this child made me so sick. We
you
joke
were
now
down,
it's all
you
the
were
brains
down.
in there. She's incredible, but she's,
Yeah.
and here I had the boys already, and now here I have this girl.
Yeah. Oh, you got your
What year
girl.
was that?
2005, May 23rd, 2005, this amazing little one was born. And that was the fork in the road again. So I have her,
Right.
and I had to go back to work with the banking. I went right back into wholesale, back to work, and supporting now all of us. Her
Yeah.
dad was kind of in and out of work a little bit. So I'm now in the house, got 4 kids, and I'm supporting all of us back out in wholesale and not singing. And I remember just feeling like, you've got to be kidding me. And then in January 07, I had worked my way back up to being a manager and a supervisor. I was doing well. That I was back in the saddle with that. And then January of 07, found out that I was very ill and needed to have a full hysterectomy from all the damage from the 4 C-sections. While I was recovering from that surgery, the entire mortgage industry collapsed in the recession.
Yeah.
This is where we talk about Gen X. That right when we were always just getting that next foot forward, that rug came out from underneath us. Now I understand there were some self-inflicted rugs. I get that. But
Yeah, but that's Gen too.
but that's too, but like, I'm like, come on.
Because we go for it, because we're risk takers, because
Yes.
we've always been feral, and no one ever really put up guardrails for us. So what do you expect? We're going to go into adulthood like that too. It's not like all of a sudden we're going to be like, no, we're not going to do that because we've been going like Tasmanian devils.
Yes.
That's in our blood.
Yes.
So that's just going to continue on,
Yes.
and I'm sure if you hadn't been sick, I bet you still would have tried to honor that contract and still go for it. Like as
Of
that
course I
Gen
would
X,
have.
and you would have been like, I'm pregnant. I can still
I can
like,
still do
I'm
this.
not
It
gonna do it.
just
I can still do it.
just
Yeah. It's just your body saying no.
right.
It's
Right.
the
My
same.
body said no.
Yeah.
And then it said no again with the
Right.
damage, the hysterectomy. I mean, I'm not to segue, but I'm just so thankful that you're doing all right. I mean, I followed your
Yeah.
journey. So my
Yeah.
heart was just going, oh, because
Yeah.
so
It,
my heart
on a
hurt for
side
you.
note, it's crazy how much I'm just going to say, and I think I might just stop every episode and make the statement how much women's pelvic floor health is
So
totally ignored.
important.
And we do the most important job in history with our pelvic floor. We give life, and then it's never acknowledged
Thank
that
you.
our pelvic floor needs to be supported, strengthened.
Yes.
The health of that should be of the utmost heart, brain, pelvic floor, as far as I'm concerned. So
Yes.
thank you for your well wishes.
Yes.
And for any listeners, I did an episode. I had just recently had surgery for pelvic organ prolapse, but I did have a hysterectomy in 2020.
Oh,
And it's a whole thing.
the whole
It's a
thing.
whole
I
thing.
was 34
And
years old at this
especially,
point now.
yeah,
Hysterectomy, 4 kids, and
yeah,
a career collapse all at the same time. 2 career collapses at
yeah,
34
yeah.
years old. That's why when my son calls me yesterday saying it's hard because he has his 1-year-old,
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Do you remember when I was 34? Do you remember? We had just lost this, and I had your sister, and I was recovering from the surgery, and you were helping Mama put her coat on. Do you remember that? Okay, let's.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
and
tell me it's hard.
she was a cesarean too, right?
Yes, I was a
So that's
mess.
4, yeah,
I was a
yeah.
mess.
Did the hysterectomy fix? Like, were you good after
I
that, or
was
did you?
mostly good. I still have a lot of complications. I work through tremendous issues physically that I use through the right diet and exercise to overcome because the scar tissue and the mangling was
Uh,
so bad. I never recovered. And yeah, I'm a mess, but
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
super, super careful about my diet, my exercise, what I can and can't have, what I can and can't do to keep myself healthy and well, or else I would be disabled. So
yeah,
that's been another part of the journey. But we've got, '07 here with all of this trifecta taking place. But
yeah,
here's another Gen X spirit. We go, okay, well, what tools do I have in the toolbox, and how do we make lemonade out of these lemons, right? And
yeah,
I'm like, I did good in sales. Sales is sales. The widget is the widget. I'm good at sales. I did that. What else can I sell? My talent. And I knew that how I was going to provide for the family now, because the mortgage industry and the real estate industry was done. I didn't have
yeah,
anything else. I didn't know anything else. I'd never been trained in anything else, but I knew I could perform now. So I put an ad out and I hired musicians, started having rehearsals in the house, put a set list together, put a marketing package together, and started asking for the business in performing. And I found out what venues pay the most money because I had to do it that way. And I put together the
yeah.
band. I called them the Vintage Cowboys. They were all a bunch of older guys, retired. They were so nice, still friends to this day. And I put the Vintage Cowboys together. And 6 months from that time, by 2008, I was opening for Clint Black on a national stage in Arizona by asking
Oh
for the
my
business.
gosh. Oh my gosh. How do you do that? How did
I
you
was
do
I
that?
know
literally,
actually.
What?
Well, you glossed over it, but for you to be given an opportunity in Nashville, for anyone who's not been to Nashville, Nashville's one of the top music cities in the country, in the world,
yes,
right?
it is.
We've been there, we've gone there, and
Mhm.
you walk down the street and the musicians are tremendous.
Yes.
So the fact that you were offered a contract means you've got talent.
Yeah. Well, but even with talent, I mean,
She can
still,
sell.
yeah, it's the selling. It
Yeah.
was the
The
selling. You sold
personality, the
yourself.
hustle, the
Yes, yeah,
energy,
it was the
the
combo.
And we
talent.
had no
Yeah.
digital download then. So I was burning
No.
Yeah.
CDs on my home computer and had my little demo from what I did get to record in Nashville back before I was pregnant with Elisa.
Yeah.
I had my little demo, and I had I had a photographer do a photo shoot on me. So I had this, cover and this, and I wrote a bio and wrote up the story, and the Scruggs last name did not hurt. And I started
Right.
asking for the business.
So, so you sold, like, you started with selling the commercial coffee makers, then you were this top seller with the mortgage and real estate. Now you sold you.
Now I sold me.
Like, now you sold you. So you combined your talent of selling with your talent,
Yes.
just your pure talent, musical talent, and then you're opening for Clint Black a year
I
later.
went on over those next years, and this is where the time and the where you say, did I open up and expose my kids to more? When there's no bubble anymore. The kids
Right.
were with me. Mind you, now Ryan is like 17. Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan had picked up a guitar on his own at 14, and the kid had freaking amazing talent. I don't play guitar. He
Mm.
was incredible. So he started coming up alongside and playing with the band. And the kids are with me. The two younger boys, they were helping sell CDs at the merch table. The 3-year-old, she's autographing my CDs all with a Sharpie. Like everybody had a role. And we went on to open for some pretty big names in country music. We went on tour in 2009 in the Suburban. So here's all these other tour buses. The other artists have their tour buses. Here's Mama pulling up in her Suburban with the car seat.
That's
And
awesome.
I
I'm like,
love it.
try
I
me,
love
try
it.
me, try me. Yeah, that's us.
It's not
That's
a
right.
soccer mom.
Loud and
It's a
proud.
country music mom. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, and it's what you do. And I would, before each town, I would call and try to get a press feature, reach the local newspaper. And I had an assistant named Mary at Amy Scruggs .com. And Mary would call ahead and make arrangements for press and radio interviews. And Mary was an amazing assistant. She still works for me to this day. Because if you're doing it
Are
on
you
your
married?
Yes, if you're doing it on your own, you're not taken seriously. What artist has calls for themselves, right? So
Right, right.
I became Mary, and Mary handled all the logistics. I handled the tour. I ran it as a business. Mary would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh yes, Miss Scruggs will get that contract back and signed over to you." I just figured out how to run it as a business to keep the roof over our head during that time. And that's
Brilliant.
when we were doing a lot with the military and veteran community. And the AMVETs were asking us to do appearances and sing the national anthem all over the place. And so I said, well, this is great, but they're a nonprofit. They really can't pay. And I have to feed these kids. So we need to put, and this was before influencers were a thing, right? This is
Mhm.
2010, 2009, 2009. There was no such thing as influencers, and
No, I don't even think Facebook was a thing yet,
Facebook
or
was
maybe
brand
it
new. There was no
just
Instagram.
started.
YouTube is
Facebook.
just where you
Yeah.
went to look at funny dog videos, right? Like there was
Yeah.
none of this.
Yes.
We
Yes.
were still flip phones, right?
Yes.
So I sat down with the AMVETs and said, look, you need me and I need you. So we're going to come up with an agreement, and I'm going to be your spokesperson, because you can put that in your budget under admin, because a nonprofit allows certain part of admin. So you're going to put me in your admin budget so that I can perform for you. You can have your service officers there to meet more veterans to help benefit with what you bring to them. And they said yes. So I put together my own endorsement contract.
Oh my
And
gosh. You
negotiate.
basically said, this, here's the role. I created the role. You're going to hire me to fill this role. And
Yes.
you're going to pay me. And brilliant.
So I
Brilliant.
had the other shows, but I had AMVETs to where I would get to go and perform at the veteran centers and at the veteran hospitals, and I would perform on their behalf at welcome homes and deployment ceremonies. And I found out about the Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program, which was just phenomenal. The Army then was doing this huge program as soldiers started coming home. Now we're in 29,
Yeah.
2010, and so I would go as a community partner. AMVETs brought me in there as a community partner to perform, yes, but also to be there and meet with the wives and the families that are reintegrating with their soldier just coming home. And it was this incredible opportunity for me to learn about what was really taking place in veteran affairs and in our veterans coming home from the service at that time. And being the daughter of a veteran, always proud that my dad served, I was
Yeah.
so proud and so honored to do that. And they wanted me to start traveling to some of the different events in Dallas and these places. I'm like, that's great, but I can't pay my way to get there. So I said, I need to speak to somebody. So they realized the only way they could cover all of my expenses, AMVETS covered me as a performer, but I went on orders with the Army as a civilian so that I could go to these other things and be at these yellow ribbon events. I mean, I just kept like, there's got to be a way, right? You got like,
Yeah.
so you just keep reinventing. Well, wait a minute. If I go on orders as a contractor, and then I was on per diem and everything else for that time. And so I just kept finding these ways to make it work.
You were so scrappy
I'm
and
so
finding the
scrappy.
loophole.
Very
So
creative
so
too.
scrappy. Now, what were the kids doing for school?
So the
I'm trying
boys
to
went to
pic
school. The boys were with their dad for school. That he had agreed. He goes, you got to do this. So the boys were with
Okay,
me anytime they were on break, weekends. Like anytime we were home, I'd go out there. We weren't that far from
okay,
each other, but they had their stability of school with their dad. The youngest, she wasn't ready for school yet, and the oldest, he had just finished. Right. So we've got that. Like he's
okay,
18 now. So he bumped up to be our second guitar player, and by
okay, cool.
2010, 2011, he became my lead guitar player, still is to this day. So
Amazing.
this baby that was saved all those years ago, right, is now playing with me. He still does for veterans and for these events, and I can't even tell you the bond that we have and the music we've done together and the experiences we've done television, we've done radio. I remember his first radio appearance in Arizona, and he was shaking like a leaf. His knees
Yeah,
were knocking so bad I had to hold his knees down while we did the interview because it was, you could hear it rattling, their
yeah,
equipment. But he learned so fast, and he learned the hard way about, behind the scenes, and nothing ever going right at every venue. There's always something
yes,
missing. Something didn't happen. This thing didn't show up. They don't have the right lines. They're yelling at you. You're late to get on this. You got to we have to cut your set 15 minutes early. I mean, there was always something up. A monsoon just came in. Of course it did. So there was always
yeah.
those things, and we have so many funny road stories. The ticket he got. I mean, I think he still has a ticket in Wyoming he never paid, and God knows the toll roads we backed up those in Colorado, and the time that the story of the bull. Do I have time to tell you the bull?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were in we were in somewhere Colorado. Don't even remember which city, but we were doing a fair for the whole weekend. And the other boys weren't with us, so I had Ryan and I had the little one. We were doing the fairgrounds, and we were singing every night. Then they also had going on, there was a derby, one of those demolition, car derbies one night,
Mhm,
and they also
mhm.
had a rodeo going on one of the nights. Well, we went on after the rodeo and had just such a fun show, and we were performing, and it's the end of the night. There's nobody else in the fairgrounds at all. And I have my lead guitar, Dave, I have Ryan, and they said, "Oh my God, have you ever seen a bull up close?" I said, "Guys, don't do it. Please don't. Please don't do it." So the band, they decide to go over to the bullpen at night. Elisa and I are waiting in the Suburban in the dark, waiting for them to come back. They come back with the flip phone where they had taken a picture, and they were so
Yeah,
proud of themselves that they took a picture of the white bull and they got to see these bulls up close. No big deal. Next morning, they're all sleeping in, and Elisa she gets a band to ride all the rides because I'm there performing all weekend. Mom, I want to ride. So we take her to the
yeah, yeah,
pony
yeah.
ride. The guy that runs the fair rides up in the golf court, and he said, "How you doing this morning?" Made small talk and said, "We had a rough morning." He goes, "We woke up this morning and found the white bull dead in the pen."
Oh no.
Oh, no. What
The white one,
they
you
just
say?
they just went and
Really?
said hi to it, right?
I can't. That's just, you guys have cameras? Like, I called a
Oh my
band meeting
god.
so fast. I said, "What did you guys do?" We swear to this day, I'll still ask Ryan, "What happened to the bull?" "We just took a picture." Well, it died that night,
Oh my
and we were the
gosh.
last ones on the premises.
Did they blame you guys?
No, how could I
It was
mean,
just small talk,
No,
right? We just happened to
they
have
they just
didn't
I'm like,
know.
"Oh,
the
so
This
sorry to hear that." They said, "We had to get
this
that thing out of here before we open the fair." So that is still the
oh
joke to
my
this day is who
gosh.
killed the bull, how'd the bull die?
Who
Nobody will talk.
That's
I
hilarious.
don't know. I don't know.
And that was before there were cameras everywhere too. You're
Yes.
lucky, like,
Yeah, you
because
could kill a bull.
nowadays, forget about
Forget
it.
about it. But no, I
Yeah,
I I
no.
don't know what happened. They swear they just took the picture. They don't know. Did it scare it? Did it have a heart attack? I
That's
don't
like a movie.
know, but it was that
It's
kind of stuff
literally
all the
it's a
time.
movie. I'm just picturing though, like you said, you and your son started out, you're a baby and then he's a baby. And then now you're out there performing together, which
Yes.
performing with people in general is an emotional experience, a bonding experience. It's art on stage. It's just very different. And then to do that with your
I
son
can't even tell you
with
how incredible it
vets
is.
too. Yeah, no, I mean that's just
That's
so it's
amazing.
amazing.
That's
It's
awesome.
so
Yeah.
beautiful and it's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And it's always so fun on the stage when I introduce the band at the end, and then he goes by his first and middle name on purpose because he didn't want
Yeah,
people. He wanted to get the applause, or that he wanted to know he was respected for his talent. And
right.
then I'd go, "And Ryan, Ryan Owens." Scruggs. And then I'd say, this is my son. And the audience is like, ah, you know, 'cause I mean, at the time, what am
Yeah.
I, 36 years old? And here he is, 18, 19 years
Right.
old. I mean, it was awesome. I was in great shape. I mean, we had a ball. It was hard work, and one town to the next, and the flat tire in the middle of the night. I mean, there's all the things, and getting yelled at behind the turkey stand. And I had a drummer say, F you, fly me home. I flew him home. You know, like,
Oh,
what do you,
yeah.
just,
It's
Yeah,
life
yeah,
on the
yeah.
road, right?
yeah, it was life on the road. It was life
Yeah.
on the road. And then all the veterans events and you know, Elisa's, you know, 3 or 4 years old. And she'd be like, okay, mommy, who's watching me while you're on stage? Okay, well,
Yeah.
Commander Byram's going to watch you with first class, private, you know, what, here you go. And there was always soldiers that were responsible for watching her while I was on stage. And we had this well-oiled machine that just
Wow.
worked. And in
And
between, we
how
were at home, and it was great until
well, I was gonna say how awesome too that with your ex-husband that he was so supportive. So for
so
your 2
supportive.
sons that were in school, their life didn't get completely up there was no upheaval there. So, it
Yes.
was a team effort for because that's 4 you're doing that with 4 kids. So someone's helping somebody, you
They
know what
were
I
so
mean?
helpful. And
And then with the soldiers and all that, so you had a lot of support. So how long did you do that? Were you on the road?
until through 2010. And,
Okay.
off and on, and I'd come in, go out. I tried to do a lot of Southern California shows, really is what I preferred,
Yeah.
because then I could just, you know, get there and come back. So I really tried to fill up the schedule with that. And if you ask the two middle boys, I always feel so bad. They have different memories of that time. I mean, they got some really cool experience, like private tours on the military bases, and sitting in a fighter jet and helicopter, and a private tour
Yeah.
of a gold mining facility up in the middle of Nevada. And like, they were just, you know, every fairgrounds, they got the wristbands and the whole thing. So they had some fun. We had some really cool experiences. But they say the same thing. If they were sitting here, they'd say, we were hungry, tired, waiting for mom. Hungry, tired, waiting for mom. Because also, a lot of those times, I couldn't feed them till I was done singing. And we'd have the merch
Mm.
sales, and then I go, okay, guys, go ahead. I mean, it was tight. We needed the gas money. I had to pay the band. It was not an abundance. It was just enough, and town to
Yeah.
town, singing for my rent, singing for my supper, as Jody Messina says.
Yeah, well, talk about popping the bubble. Like you
Yes.
said, your children, the bubble was popped for your children.
Yes.
And in a even more extreme way than just normal kids would maybe be out riding their bikes. Your kids are hustling right along
They were
with you
hustling.
and getting these really cool experiences, like you said, but also there's times where they probably were tired or they just
They
wanted to,
were.
lay in bed or, so you definitely popped the bubble with them. They got exposure to so many different things, which
Mhm.
is a huge benefit to them if you think about how you grew up.
Yes.
They were not sheltered in that way, at least once you hit that point in your life.
Right.
So, and I'm sure as they get older, the memories, either all those others like hungry, tired will go away. That
I
all
hope so.
fades and all the good stuff just shines. So
I
then
ask their
what
forgiveness every time I see them. I'm
yeah,
like, you guys still forgive me, right? We're good, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and again, well, like anything, the older you get, all that other stuff just kind of
Becomes
dims.
nostalgic.
Yeah, and it becomes
Yeah.
nostalgic. So what happened at 2010 though to
So then
cause you to stop touring?
2011 now came around, and
Okay.
AmVets did a change of management and leadership and board members, and they decided not to renew. So my income had disappeared. Also at that time, we were really struggling to make ends meet, and I was not able to continue keeping the house. So we found out that the house, then remember, this is all in that mortgage bubble, all the
Yes, yes.
foreclosures.
You guys got hit very hard in SoCal.
Brutal.
It was sort of the epicenter
It was the
for the US
epicenter. So
anyways.
not
Yeah.
only did that career not exist to pay me, you know, here I'm singing for the rent and supper, but it was no longer enough to keep the house. And in 2011, I lost my contract, I lost my home, and then our bass player died of a heart attack suddenly.
Oh
And I
no.
went, he
How
was
old was your
40.
bass player?
It was his 40 week
Wow.
after his 40th birthday.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
once again went like this. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, pulling the plug.
Yeah.
I pulling the plug. Boys had to be with their dad. I have my daughter. We had we had to figure out what we were going to do, and how that's going to happen. And I ended up back at mom and dad's house briefly. It was just a
Mm.
mess. I had to sell the truck, sold the trailer, and I went, all right. The industry was starting to open up again as far as mortgage and real estate, as now people were buying all those foreclosures. And I just put my hands up and said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I think I'm supposed to do this. And I actually accepted a job back in sales in the mortgage industry in San Diego. And Elise and my daughter was ready to start first grade anyways. And I know and so touring wasn't an option then either. And so I went back into the industry, moved to a new city. The boys were then now an hour and a half away from me. And I put her in school in San Diego and started this new job. And I remember it was a Thursday. I was opening for Trace Atkins to a sold out crowd for our last show in Northern California. And on Monday, I was in a cubicle starting over again. And my daughter and I, we rented a like 200 square foot room with a twin bed. I mean, I literally lost everything, all of our possessions, everything gone. And it's she and I with the clothes and what we could start with one more time. And
Jeez.
that was August of 2011. But it was interesting. I feel like because that had been the narrative of this Gen X life that we had and the timing of just the world and some of this stuff was just, it just was what it was, is where what it should have been our earning years and young kids. This is when all that crisis was happening. Regardless, that was going to happen. And so I said, Amy, you did it before, you're going to do it again. And I remember just saying, okay, what's next? And now I'm coming off of, touring and getting that rock star life a little bit. I'm stepping back into this world. I don't know anyone in San Diego. Like, I literally was like, I am starting over. But I had no idea that when you stop and let go and just say, okay, I'm willing, I'm literally surrendering to it so big. I'm not fighting it. I'm not creating resistance. Everything else has had a crazy story. Why won't this one too? I'm still in my late 30s now. Why not? The boys were okay. We hugged it. We came up with a great, once a week when we were going to have dinner and the weekends and this and driving up, and it was okay. We were going to make this work. And I'm so thankful to say that I was able to remarry in the next few years. My husband, who now is here in San Diego. Elisa has that little girl that went through all of that went through losing our home, sleeping in a twin bed with me, starting over. She's in her 4th year at UCSD in a marine bio and a performing arts major. She was valedictorian of her high school. She's so talented. And in 2017, I was given the opportunity. I got a call because I had now networked and made friends and was, back out business development and lending, still performing when I could, right? Did a couple cool shows. I got to open for Chubby Checker and Frankie Avalon and so I still was taking shows. Like it was always kind of sprinkled in, right?
Was that with a band or just you solo?
Me at the piano with a gown. Like
no
bougie.
Way.
Yes. I was like, I'll do that. I've been playing since I was 3. I just never told anybody.
Were you playing the piano while singing?
Yes. Who knew?
Okay. So you went from country music and your last show was Trey Atkins, you said?
Yes.
Which, talk about a shock to the system. I'm just picturing you in that environment and then in the twin bed environment. I mean,
4 days later. Yeah.
Yeah, talk again.
Well, you've been tested.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you were probably like, okay, yeah, I know this. I know how this goes. Oh okay.
Bring it on. I just, my philosophy, like, okay, bring it on. Yeah, I don't even know.
But then, so in San Diego, when you were performing, did you go right into the new genre of you at a piano? Did you ever dabble in the country music again, or did you totally switch genres?
Oh, well, definitely dabbling in the country music, but I switched to where I could play some country. I do Sinatra, I do Green Day and Goo Goo Dolls. Like I learned like, Bonnie Raitt and Adele. So I learned for a general audience different songs that would relate to all the different multi-generational stuff. So I had put on, because I had a piano again now, finally. Now, I've landed and now the piano, and I'm just like, oh, thank you. So I taught myself how to have a piano show, right? And the next thing I knew, somebody said, oh, they're looking for somebody to open up for Tony Orlando. I can do it. I'll take it.
Oh my gosh.
And then there was another big private party and Chubby, I got to open for Chubby Checker. Right?
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
And I was in a gown at the piano, and it was just such a bless. I'm like, what a blessing. That was like 2018. I don't know. It was just such a blessing to get these other little, and also in that time, I sing the national anthem, Padre Stadium, every year. In 2011, I sang at Dodger Stadium for the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, and my daughter stood at home plate with me. And it was just beautiful. So here I was still singing the anthem in the stadiums, doing appearances what I could, rebuilding my career. And in early 2017, I got a call from a colleague that said, Amy, I have somebody you need to meet. There's a TV show in San Diego that they need someone that understands real estate and mortgage, that's not afraid of being in front of the camera, that can also host and understand veterans affairs and do a veterans show.
No, stop.
Right?
You're like the only person on
I'm
this
the
earth
only
who
person on the earth that checks all three of those boxes. It wasn't even a.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm dying right now.
So
That's
I ended up
hilarious.
ending up in this driver's seat of this Veterans One TV show. And then they started letting me do the American Dream TV. Now I'm out doing field shoots for Lifestyles San Diego. Now I've learned how to be a TV host. And then it grew to where
Amazing.
they were picked up, and I was hosting it and the show for CNBC.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious, right?
That's
Again,
amazing.
your whole life shift, and you're like, fine, I'll build this
I'll
up
learn
too.
how to
Walk
do
me.
that. No, that's
Yeah.
that's why I know to look at the camera when we're having this conversation.
Right.
These
Yeah.
are all like these hold my beer moments.
Yeah,
I
you're
got
like,
Thank
all
you.
right.
I couldn't agree
Yes.
more. Hold my
Yeah,
beer.
exactly.
So now
Yeah.
I am loving it.
How did you meet your husband?
Mutual friend. So a friend
Okay.
that I had been they've friends with them for years since Ryan was little, introduced me to their best friend who had been divorced, and we've been together ever since.
And
So
was it instant for you?
yeah, it was. It was instant for both of us. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I assume he totally supports the music part of your life,
Yes.
and all of
All
the
the
things
crazy that
you
comes
do.
with me. I know every
Yeah.
once in a while he's like,
Yeah.
God, it's a lot of Amy. I mean, and it is. I get it. He's like, it's a lot, just too much, too much. I know, I get it. But I'm
Yeah.
just, I love when you hand me a new widget. I think that's
Yeah.
a new tool for the toolbox. And that's why it's so fun when I have to like turn in a bio, like, what's your bio? I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you see it laid out in chronological order, because I just get handed or trip into these next things where I go, I can do that. Is that going to be?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you had been on the road with Ryan and doing all this performing, and then you had the whole downshift and the whole life change,
Yes.
and you and your daughter went to San Diego. Where did he go? Did he go to San Diego?
No, I know. We still are heartbroken. When I do a show, it's still Ryan. We still perform. We do private parties, and I'm very involved with Rotary International, and so he's done some big performances with me in the last years for big audiences at the conventions for Rotary International, and any opportunity that we do get to do something. But he had to go to work, and
Okay.
I mean, it's still, if music comes up, he's still like,
What
we
does he
do it when
do?
we can. But now he's got a wife and a new little baby, and so he's where he's supposed to be right now. And
Does he live
you
near you?
know my story now. God knows what's next for that. I mean, that'll come around. It's okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah,
when
for sure.
COVID hit in 2020, all the shows, no studio, no filming, no field shoots. I had to
Yeah.
start doing remote filming. I was doing that from home, and that's when I set all this up. And like, okay, we're doing this from home now. Well, I got a call. The same guy from Nashville from 2004, James, the one that brought me in his office, started
No.
that for me all those years back, calls me in 2020 because we had stayed in touch. He said, Amy, are you finally ready to do your big project? I went, what are you talking about? He said, I found your producer. He said, listen, nobody's touring right now. COVID's locked everything down. They want the work. He said, I have one of the biggest and best producers in Nashville that has said yes to you. Let's do your project. So he started the song search for me. And in May of 2021, my husband came with me. My daughter came with me because she was in remote school.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I recorded my dream project in Nashville in one of the biggest studios with the best
Amazing.
producer. And I was able to release my first dream project to radio after all these years at 48. And you're going to love this because the hit song is called What If It All Goes Right?
I listened to it this morning. I watched
And
the video and listened to it. It's
I was
wonderful.
so
A
excited to
wonderful
finally
song.
tell Dad I'm finally in Nashville. By this time, his Alzheimer's had started. It took me to 48 years old after all those times of it getting ripped away, all the should haves and what I could haves and this and doing the right thing and having the kids and all the stuff, all the hustle. led me to the most amazing, beautiful, incredible experience that I could ever ask for. And it's not about the results of whoever hears the songs. It was that project meant the world to me. And I know that I appreciated it so much more than I would have at 28.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to be a voice for women in their 40s and 50s to say, do not give up. Do not give up. You don't know what's around the corner.
I
Yeah.
would say for
Yeah.
younger girls, honestly, anybody, male or female, but even for young women.
For Gen X women especially, I think it's so important to have examples of peers who are still going for their dream, like their real dream, and hitting the speed bumps, hitting walls, busting through those walls, and it can still happen.
It
There
can
is no
still
time limit for
happen.
us. Yes. You're an example of that. There's no time limit. I'm amazed that this producer, was that just a random phone call? Or have you
Yes.
kept in touch with him through the
No,
years?
James called me and he goes, Amy, I was talking to Fred and he said yes. And they were all out for COVID. And it was that perfect point in history and in time. Because any other time, I don't think they could have had the time and the space for me. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. No,
yes, yes,
and
yes.
it's a
So
beautiful song. It's such an I was listening to it this morning.
Oh,
I
thank
watched
you.
the video is the production on that video is amazing.
Thank you.
I
Because
encourage all
I
listeners.
produced it.
Did
All
you
my
really?
background with everything before, I'm like, I can do a music video. And our son-in-law, he's a videographer. He's so talented. I said, meet us at the beach. I mean, literally, my husband's holding the Bluetooth speaker that I'm lip syncing to. The other grandbaby's like running around. My son-in-law's holding the camera, and I produced and picked every one of those clips for What If It All Goes Right, and then just outsourced the editor that put everything together. But I time-stamped every clip because I wanted that story, and I wanted people to see the video and realize that they see themselves in that in different parts of life,
Yeah.
that you can turn that around. And it was so much fun. We did that video 2022.
Yeah.
2021, no, 2020 was performed at 2021, and then the song was officially really released early 2022. And I didn't tour that time. I did everything from this desk. We were still coming out of COVID. And honestly, as a Gen Xer now, and now at 50, it's 3, I don't want to sing at night. If I can do a matinee tour, like where it's
Yeah.
just lunch group, I'm good. I'm tired. I don't want to go on stage at 9 o'clock at night anymore.
yeah,
Well, and I
you
think
turn into a pumpkin.
that brings up the whole we've been grinding for so long, and it's
Yes.
great to still go for your dreams. But I think for us Gen X women, especially, it's important that we allow ourselves to downshift
Yes.
and let our nervous systems regulate. And everything isn't an emergency or has to be done quickly, and we
Right.
don't have to be pushing ourselves to the brink.
Right.
And right there, that example of, you know what, I think I'd rather do matinee because that just fits better.
Tired.
It allows you to kind of downshift a
Yes.
little bit and give ourselves permission to not be like going 110% all the time, because
Yes.
that's what we've been doing. So that's a great example of that.
It was so fun. And I realized that I had something to help other professionals, and especially women and women our age who have to transition into this digital world, right? Because they also want to be on
Yeah.
a podcast. They want to speak with you, but they're afraid to be on camera, or they don't know how to be eloquent or have a clear thought or put together their media kit. And that's where media coaching went, you know what? I've literally done all of these things. And I speak the language. I come from a place of like just so raw with all of it. And I
Mhm.
started coaching professionals in all industries on their keynote speaking and on being on podcasts and how to prepare for that, how to handle your press, why it's important to have a digital footprint, how to do it right, how to vamp up their social media presence. And I had joined Rotary International, and it didn't take long before they put me on the stage as a keynote speaker to start training on how to have this digital presence and do it right and reach your community. So I became known as a speaker that could speak about media coaching and digital marketing. And then at the end of it, they get a song because I can sing and perform. So
What-
I turned into a really good, like, trained circus monkey with all of these things at one time because I have these key careers that all blended together into this. I think it's just a beautiful bundle of what I can offer now, how I can
it,
help others.
it's like a complete product, really, if you think about it. Like you're taking every aspect that you've done
Yes.
and you've created this product that you can offer to people and say, look, you're going to get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then at the end, you're going to get this great beautiful song, and you're going to leave here feeling amazing,
Yes.
inspired, and knowledgeable about something that you maybe were insecure about before, but now you have the confidence. You're giving people the confidence to
Yes.
go for it, to just do it. Just do the thing. Here's the tools. You can do it. They're leaving with confidence. They're leaving then with this song, this inspirational song, which really ties into a lot of what you're teaching them too.
Yes.
That I don't know if you're singing just that song, but that song ties into what you're talking about with them. So it all kind of goes
Exactly.
together. That's
Exactly.
amazing.
And I
Are you
record
closing with that song each time, or are you changing up the
No,
songs?
usually with my keynote, it's that one because
Okay.
it's the broadest one for the audience. Another one of the songs I
Yeah.
recorded was called Fly, and I chose it on purpose for the kids. It is literally my heart and song to the kids. And I know you'll fly someday, and I know that you're going to do great things, and they are going to have the opportunities that I didn't have. And it was so
Yeah.
fun because when it came time to think about the music video for that, that song released at the same time my daughter was about ready to graduate high school. After all this, now that little baby is now
Yeah.
graduating with honors here in San Diego, and I see that it was all worth it for who she is and what she needed, right? Those
Yeah.
pitfalls or those stopping points were what she needed. Maybe not what I thought I needed, but I know it was definitely what she needed. And so I got permission
Yeah.
from again, you don't know if you don't ask. I went to the school district and said, I want to film my music video for the song Fly. Can I please have permission to film it on the high school campus? And they said yes. So I brought in the
Amazing.
cameras and we did the drone shots. And I actually got her and a few of her friends were in the video. And I was able to film this song Fly with this all American high school watching the track team go around. And then I asked
Amazing.
anybody that wanted to submit a picture of their graduate anywhere in the country. If it's a college graduate, a kindergarten graduate, submit photos of your graduate. And then they're woven into this video and honored that we honor all the graduates at the different stages of life. And so I produced that video and put it together and released it. And that was really something to do that for her and her friends and to honor her as she then got into her number one university of choice. And it's just, I was at the university
Amazing.
last week, and you guys will laugh at this because that's when it hit me that I never had that or even understood. And she's at UCSD, it's a big school.
Yeah.
I'm like a 5-year-old when I go over there. I'm like, oh, what's this?
Mhm.
And, I'm like running around the school and taking selfies, and I'm inside the cafeteria like I own the place. I'm like, who cares? They'll never see me again. I don't go here. And I'm just realized, oh my God, this is what I missed. Oh, I want to go check out the library. Wait, where's the gym? And I am just so excited, and I want to be with her friends, and I sit on the floor of her rehearsal studio with her acapella. She's in an acapella group, and
Oh,
the president
wow.
of the group, and an incredible voice, and she's in performing arts, and so it's so fun to watch her. Oh my God, to watch her almost 21 years old as the soloist and leading and singing. And man, she just looks and sounds just like me. I'm watching this happen again. And it's like,
Amazing.
okay, your turn. I got it. We're all good. But getting to
What
live some of those things that I missed and the things that I can never get back that I didn't get to do, I live through them.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the boys when they call and they're sad and scared because they lost a job. I'm like, it's just a job. You're gonna have another one. It's okay. It's okay. You do whatever you want to do. You want to go to clown school? I don't care. I want you guys to always follow your heart, follow your instinct in your gut. There's no shoulds, there's no have tos. Just do it, and I'm right behind you. If anybody showed you you can have 25 careers in 15 years, it's me. Go do it. And I hope
Yeah.
that I can bring that to them.
Well, and I think to listeners and anyone you can reach. I mean, your children are incredibly lucky to have you as an example of that, and to have a parent that will support them taking all the turns, going for all the things,
All the
and
turns.
being that cheerleader. Because so many parents, me included, I can say is I tend will be go the safe route. Like, are you sure? Are you? Or, and my knee jerk reaction isn't to be like, no, just go for it, And his is more like that.
Yeah,
So
I'm like that.
thankfully he'll come in, and he'll say, no, no, you don't talk about that. Like, let's just
Let's not
her,
put the
let's
fear
not
in.
put the fear in, because I
Yeah.
do that, and I'm aware, and I got to stop doing that. So for your kids, that's such a gift you're giving them,
And I
because you're
modeled
giving them,
it, so they know
your
I'm not
models
just
it.
making it up.
Yes. You talk the talk and walk the walk, but also you're saying, I believe in you enough that you can do it. You're giving them the confidence, but you're also saying, go for it, because I believe in you enough you can do it. And if you don't, that's okay,
That's
because you're
okay.
failing forward. just keep failing forward.
Yes.
So, and probably when you go and you talk to people is what you're giving to people. And that's huge, especially for um, those of us who are in our 40s and 50s and 60s who never had anyone have that confidence in us, who never gave us permission, especially Gen X, who never said, just do it, fail forward. What do you have to lose? That's not how we were raised,
Right.
Well,
So
especially her.
yeah,
Especially you,
yeah,
right?
your
Yeah.
upbringing in the
Oh,
bubble for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, think about
Multiple
it.
bubbles. Yeah.
Think about it. Like you were like you were here and now you're way
You
over
were very
here.
well protected.
Yeah.
boy,
And
did
now
I
you're the
burst out of
opposite.
that. My dad, and
Yeah.
he still understood
Oh,
everything. He said, Amy, I swear, you can fall on your butt and you just turn around and get right back up. I'm like, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Staying
yeah,
down? How's that going to help anybody? It's
but
got to
there's
get
a
up.
lot of people that do, I mean, that to have that scrappiness and that
I love that
endurance of
word.
life. It's an endurance of
It's
life. It's
endurance,
that you didn't let life knock you down. You didn't stay down long.
right?
Do
It
your
might have knocked
kids
you down, but you didn't stay down long.
They
do
think
your
I'm a
kids know
nutcase.
your
Yes. I'm
story?
just kidding. What's the question?
Do your kids know your story?
Oh,
What
yes,
you've been through?
absolutely. I'm so transparent. So
Yeah.
I don't want them sitting in an interview someday having somebody ask them, "Well, tell me about your mom's upbringing," and going, "I don't know," because
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm so transparent with them. And I've begged my daughter to write the book someday. I'm like, most of the stories. Write the book someday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It could
so
be a movie, honestly.
yeah, we're all so transparent with each other and so close. In 2023, by that point now, she's in her first year of college. Two of the boys got married. One had just moved to Idaho with his wife.
Wow.
I was speaking full time, coaching full time. And that year, I kid you not, I was on or hosting 100 podcasts. So I was just like, I
Wow.
was just doing it, right? We're just doing it. It's
Wow.
Yeah.
2023. And then visiting home the holidays, 2023, realized how bad my dad was and that he was declining quickly and that my mom was not capable of caring for him. And so in January of 2024, I made the tremendous decision that I shut off everything, my entire business, everything I was doing, and moved in with my parents, 2 hours north again, left the home, moved in with my parents to become my dad's full-time caregiver with his Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And that really was the next chapter. I was now in pigtails every day in a ball cap. I learned everything I needed to learn about being a caregiver for Alzheimer's. I immersed in the caregiving community. But what I did, and I asked his permission early on, and I asked mom's permission, will you let me turn the camera on? Will you let me turn my phone on? Because there's so many life lessons in this. And here also to go back to that root beginning, to be back with mom again, to be back with mom. Like I was going back. And
Yeah.
there were some triggers there. Right?
Yeah, for
The last
sure.
time I
For
stayed
sure.
there, I was because I was homeless in 2011. So
Yeah.
Quick question:
yeah.
had they stayed married this whole time?
Yes.
They were still together.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but going back to the place and you haven't been triggered probably in a while, and that can
Ooh.
throw you off a little bit. It comes out of nowhere, kind of.
There was
Can take a minute to
All
realize.
40 years later, right? Roughly
Well,
doing the math.
30.
18 to, yeah,
35,
I left at 19 and here I was back at 51. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was okay. And
You had two
I,
things going on, your
I,
dad and your mom.
I've learned something as I reflect back and it's interesting we're doing this interview today because tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of his passing. So I'm
Mm.
really, really feeling that right now. And as
Yeah.
hard as that was, and as hard as it was going back in the family dynamic, but my dad with his Alzheimer's, man, he was hilarious. My dad was who his soul and spirit didn't get to be in those working stress years. He didn't
Mm.
he didn't have a care in the world, right? Because he didn't know.
Mm.
So every day was just play. We want to go out and play in the yard. Let's play. Let's play with the birds. Let's catch a squirrel. We had baking with dad. I turned that camera on and I video documentaried every day my dementia care life. And that was our caregiver carpool karaoke, that love for music, that love for country music that was embedded with dad and I from the beginning, that was always there, that he always loved. He would get restless because with Alzheimer's, he couldn't sit down. I would strap him in the car and we would just drive for hours and sing and I'd turn on the camera. Well, my dad grew quite a following. He went viral and
Oh, wow.
everybody fell in love with Tom. And I shared the joys, the heartaches, the falls, all the things that went with it. And I kept the camera on all the way until the last day, 1 year ago today.
Wow.
And it was beautiful, but it was the first time for me since I was a kid that I got to play. I played. I was like a child again, meeting my dad with his childlike heart. And it's like we were two 5-year-olds frolicking in the yard for 1.5 years. And it was the most amazing, beautiful, incredible season. We sang, we played. There was no, you didn't use the word no for anything. Yeah, you want to do that? No problem. My mom would be like, why are you handing him a glue gun? Why not? My skin will grow back. Everything was a yes. Yes, he had a bucket list and we hit it. I took him to his last casino. We went to the apple farms. I took him to the airport every week to watch the airplanes and have lunch. And everybody there knew us. We went out into the community every day. We knew every clerk at Target in the grocery store. And I pushed him around in the wheelchair and he'd shake hands like he was the mayor of the city. And everybody fell in love with him. And he had the best, happiest last 1.5 years of his life.
I mean, there's everything you're saying. I'm almost speechless. It's so beautiful because it's beautiful for him, but what an amazing opportunity for you. You got to say goodbye to your dad in the most beautiful, amazing way. If
Yes.
only all of us could have had that moment before we've lost our dads.
Mm.
What I would give to, I mean, and I know Alzheimer's is a nightmare, so I'm not taking that away from people. I know that, but what an opportunity for you to
Yes.
have that. That's absolutely, I'm
He
crying. It's
touched
absolutely,
so, I
it's
mean, thousands
amazing.
and thousands and thousands of comments and people saying, thank you. I've learned. I'm a better caregiver now. I learned how to do this with my loved one. Thank you for making us smile today. Thank you for being a part of this community. I'm still getting messages today of, can't believe it's been a year. We miss your dad's smile so much. I'm still doing some of the things you taught me to do in my caregiving world. And I was so honored after he passed that PBS reached out to me and they were just starting the promotion of the Bradley Cooper documentary on caregiving. And they featured some of my videos to promote
Oh,
Bradley Cooper's
that's
movie.
wonderful.
And I was just like, oh my God, Dad, this is incredible. This is
Yeah.
incredible. What was hard for me was coming back home then, and the notes on my desk still said January 2024. I had let go of my business, my speaking, my singing. I let go of all of that to take care of Dad. Now I had to come back. And this is the first time that I really had that identity crisis that I was like, and now what? I think I ran
Right.
out of the now what's. And
Yeah.
I had to sit on that. And I decided to set just some personal goals and said, okay, I'm going to read 25 books in 2025. I'm going to do things that I didn't know I could do. I lost weight. I strength trained. I spent time with the kids. I had 2 grandbabies in the midst of Dad's care.
Hmm.
The 2 babies were born 10 weeks apart. So I'm a grandma. And
Wow.
this last year, decided, and when I reached out to you guys, it was that time when I said, okay, it's time to start again. It's time to start talking again. It's time to see what's next. And
I'm
that's,
so honored that even we were even on the realm of that.
you're the
Like
first show
that.
I'm doing.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. Thank you,
That's
Amy.
cool.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm so honored to be a part of your next shift and that we get to be part of the fabric of the quilt of your life. So we're honored to have you on. Thank you so much. And I was just thinking about as you were having this beautiful goodbye with your father, you were also experience experiencing this whole new shift as a grandmother. That's our next gift, right? Is to be
Yes,
grandparents. So, how did you align that happening as you're losing your dad, but
that was brutal.
there's this birth of life coming into your life? That
Right,
had to
both
have been,
ends.
yeah.
That was so full circle at the same time. And I thank goodness last January, the one son in Idaho who they came down to visit and had the baby, and the other son, the 2 babies got to be together. And there is
Mm.
a picture of my dad with both babies before we lost
Oh,
him. And so I'm so thankful for that. But to see these little ones, and I mean, there's the part of me like, oh no, those 2 boys are in charge of these humans staying alive. Like, really? Can they are they okay? It's okay. They'll keep the baby alive. It's all right.
yeah.
But it is
Mhm.
beautiful, and it's beautiful to watch my sons become sons. And especially Ryan being the oldest, and after all that we've been through together, how he was saved, right? In the abortion
Yeah.
clinic that day. And now there's this beautiful little baby girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because of the dynamic, Ryan is a Scruggs. Ryan has my last name because of that situation, because I had him by myself. He has my
Yeah.
maiden
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
I have my
Yeah.
maiden name. My granddaughter is a Scruggs. And that wouldn't
Oh,
have happened
wow.
any other way.
Oh, wow. Talk about beating the patriarchy.
Yes. Thank you. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Look
You
at you
you found a
go.
loop. You found another loophole.
Another loophole.
That's the best one. That's the best
I
one. I
know.
love that.
I'm
Your
pretty excited
granddaughter
about
has your
that.
last name. I love that. That's
That's funny.
awesome. That is so
It's
awesome.
really cool. It's
So, is he live close to you? Because you're
no,
in San Diego.
they're an hour and a half away, and which means in Southern California with traffic, they're 5 hours away. But
Yeah, they
it's
might as
okay.
well
I
be
can
another
still drive.
state.
I can still see them. We still make it happen. The other ones are tougher. I have to fly. I keep flying to Boise. The others are in Boise. I was just there in
Both of
December.
them? The two boys are in
The
Boise.
one
How
boy
did
with his baby is in Boise. The other boy is an hour and a half north of here in Orange County, California.
what about the third one?
The third
The
one,
third one.
he's as he says, he's the smart one. No babies yet. He's working. He's hustling. He's the middle one, and he's like, no.
And does he live close to you as
He
well?
lives he lives close next to the next to Ryan. So two of them in Orange County, one in Idaho, and then the
Okay.
daughter in San Diego.
So does Ryan and I'm sorry, what's the name of the son
Jeff,
that lives with
Ryan
you?
and Jeff
Jeff.
is the
Do
second
they
one.
see each other and
Oh
you
yeah,
hang
all the
out?
time. They're so close, and
That's
they're all
awesome.
four of them are close. We're always on a group chat or a FaceTime, and
Yes.
something happens to one, everybody gets on the phone. So there's just such
That's wonderful.
there's
That's you.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're the hub
You're
of
the
that.
glue. Yeah.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
insist on it. I insist on it. Like they're
Yeah.
good.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. We were talking about technology way at the beginning of how the negatives of it, but we also have a family
Whoa.
chat. And that I will say that has kept, like when our kids were in college, that kept us all so close. So when they would come home, there was no catch up time because we've been
Right.
texting all the time. So you're constantly in touch. So when you do see each
Constantly.
other in person, you're not wasting any time catching up because you already, it's just like the next day you
It's
see
like
each
you
Yes.
never
other.
left.
It's like you never left. So
Yes.
that is my favorite thing about the phones
And the babies
and
know me
about
on
technology.
FaceTime, thank goodness.
Yes, 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 exactly. Now, are you also something with brands? A brand special?
I
Do you do
help people with
something with
branding,
brands?
yes, because clearly
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
branding.
is that tying into the digital footprint?
Yes,
Do
it's
those
all part of
go
the
hand in hand?
coaching. Yes, they
Okay.
need coaching and
Okay.
just knowing their branding. But with that, then you also need to be comfortable being on camera, and you also need to know what your message is, and you need to understand what is your business, who are you, what are you representing. So I think it's always all kind of mixed up in the same umbrella, and it's so important, even through all of those different changes in my careers and look back even as an artist. I was branded and known because as a part of AMVETS, that I was the one that was singing for the military and veteran community. It helped me stand out as
Yeah.
an artist, even though it was just my heart doing it, but there was still the branding with that. And
Yeah.
the side of the trailer had the logo and all the things that go with that. And so yes, I just think it's always important in any professional in any business, even when I work with real estate agents. Who are you? Who are you in your community? What do you represent in your community? That is your brand. And
Yeah.
this is how
Yeah.
you go after that brand. And so it's really fun. I've worked with some amazing nonprofits and other entrepreneurs, and some I just work on their keynote and just getting them polished in a keynote speaking, because so many people have a hard time following that, and the audience and the PowerPoint and all the things that go with it, and how you time that just right and really capture your audience. And it's fun to take my scrappiness and have it be
Yeah.
something that becomes tools to help others.
Yeah. And inspire. Are you currently working with clients or are you just starting that
I
back
just
up again?
started back up, and this is
Okay.
scary. I mean, I honestly, if you had asked me even 6 months ago, I'm like, I've been forgotten. Now what? I'm going to be an underwater basket weaving. What now? Because I was in such grief of that,
Yeah.
losing dad and coming back to just, and I came back to empty nest. My daughter moved out into her apartment while I was living and caring for my parents. So
Oh,
now
wow.
now I'm like, wow, this is unusual. This is new.
How long have you been kind of on the bench in a sense where you gave yourself some time? Has it been a
It's been a
year
year
then? Or a
tomorrow.
year today? Yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Lost
Oh,
down
well,
on,
this is
yeah.
amazing timing for
Yeah.
this podcast too.
Yes.
If you think about doing that. So then what about singing? When was the last time you performed?
Oh, That's a good one. I forgot. Thank you. It's always I got a call, right? I call out of the
Yes.
blue in June, and it was the lead guy from the cover band from back when the boys were little. When I was in 2001,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Are you still together? How is that possible?" I'm doing the math. I'm like, "How?" Okay, I'm not going to ask. Their lead singer. Now, mind you, I have not sung with them in 25 years. 25 years. He said, "Will you do a couple shows with us? We need the 4th of July big stadium show, and we have another one, concert in the park." And I go, "What city?" He said, "San Dimas, my hometown." So I went back
No.
in July, a few months after Dad passed, and I sang no rehearsal. Oh my God, I went in blind. I'm like, "Okay, we got this." And I sang with the same band that I sung with all those years ago when I was 29 years old. And what was so fun is Ryan came and brought his wife and baby, and they were dancing up front.
Oh my gosh. I'm
That's
telling
cool.
you, your life is a movie
It
because
was
that is such a
really cool.
full circle moment.
And I did the
I
4th
feel
of July show with them, and
like
it was all cover stuff, and it was a blast, and it was a beautiful reunion. And so I did do that this summer.
that's amazing. Do you think you're going to continue to like get a band together? Is that in the future for
Don't
you or
know.
continue to perform?
I miss it, and I am. If one thing I've learned every time I try to plan something, it goes the opposite, right? I'm waiting.
Mm.
I'll reach you guys next week and say who called. So, I mean, it's going to be a phone call. Hey, Amy, I got this for you because that's what always
Yeah, yeah,
happens
yeah.
when I just let it go. So I am letting it go and I'm putting it out there. Yes, I would absolutely love to perform.
That it's a great approach. It's a great approach to just
Matinee. Thank you if you're listening.
yeah,
Matinee.
matinee, matinee. Opportunity knocks for you though. You know, and
Does.
if one way or another, it does knock for you.
It does.
So as we're speaking, you are just at the beginning of the new part of your journey, the new shift, the new
Yes.
thing that's going to happen. I'm so excited to see what transpires here
How
because I
many
know it's
two
going
of
to be
us?
something.
Might be
Yeah.
underwater
You know,
basket weaving, but I'll be the best at it.
I
I'll
was going to
I'll
say, I
brand
guess
it.
you'll kill it.
you'll
Yeah.
brand it.
Yeah.
So about your last name though, because that is a musical
It's
last name.
country
Yeah,
royalty.
and
Yeah.
are you connected to
No
country royalty?
relation. No
Okay.
relation. And
Okay.
my favorite story for that was when I was first in Nashville in 2004, and James was introducing me around when all that was happening. And we were in this one place where he introduced me to this one woman who was a somebody on Music Row. Couldn't tell you who she is to this day. That's not the point. The point was he introduced me and she goes, "Oh, you're the Amy we've been hearing all about. It's so good to meet you." I have to put that on because that's what it sounded like. And so she was
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very nice until James excused himself for a moment to step aside and he left me alone with her. And she said, "Who do you think you are coming into this town with that last name? I know
No
Earl,
way.
I know Randy, and his illegitimate son. So if you think you can ride the coattail of the Scruggs name, you got another thing coming." And
Oh
I
my
said,
goodness.
"My name is Amy Elizabeth Scruggs. I'm from Southern California, and I'm here on my own accord. No relation. You have a good day." And from that point, every interview is always no relation. Now, was Ralph Scruggs in Russellville, Arkansas related to Earl Scruggs, who came from the same region? Probably, but no one ever
Okay.
knows. No one ever traced it, and it's no relation. I did it on my own
And
accord.
there's those questions where you said the ancestry is kind of you have missing it could be, but you don't know. You know,
A
so it's
lot
like
of
no
There's
relation.
not a ton of
So,
Scruggs in the world.
no.
mm,
So
no.
It helps
Do
from
I
an SEO
yeah,
standpoint
sure.
and a branding standpoint. If you Google Amy Scruggs, you
Yeah.
only find me. So I'm always like, just Google my name. You can't miss it. Thank God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, as all of us Gen Xers are either in perimenopause or menopause,
oh,
whenever I have a Gen X woman on, I try to ask, what has your experience? Have you had an experience with perimenopause and menopause, and what has that experience been? And what steps have you taken to deal with it?
it's torture.
Yeah, agreed.
It's February 28th today as we record this. And I want you to know that I am sitting in a very cooled, air conditioned house that I'm sure my husband is downstairs wearing a parka. I also have two fans on me right now. There's one of it. Because I had the hysterectomy at 34, it instantly shot me into menopause at that time, partial. But then it evened out. The problem was then for the years later, now in my late 40s, I didn't have an identifier that I was in perimenopause. Nobody taught me about it because I didn't have a cycle that would notify me that things were changing. All of a sudden, late 40s at 50, just everything, everything changed. And I went,
Yep.
what is happening? So I started doing a lot of homework on this, and I finally, I went ahead and got the supplements, the estrogen replacement, and I got onto that, and I started completely overhauling as well what I realized I need to be doing in strength training and protein, what I need versus what anybody else needs. And it was really, especially this last year since Dad passed, that I went into a complete 110% like health overhaul and just was eat, sleeping, and breathing literally what is the chemistry of my body with these symptoms of menopause. And I'm happy to tell you today, except for the fact that I'm roasting all the time and it doesn't help that I have like a ton of hair, I have been able to manage the symptoms so much better through food, through exercise, through strength training. I have a vibration plate. I drink 100 ounces of water a day, 120 ounces of protein. I'm careful about what I do. I cut out 90% of alcohol because I realized it was just not helping me. Deep
Yeah.
stretching, all of those things, and saying I both my grandparents on that Rippy side lived to be 101. So I could only be at the halfway point right now, and this body's got to keep me through. And it was already, I mangled it in my 20s and 30s from having all those kids. I can repair and restore now. Our cells can, you know, be healed. And so I've been in the, if it isn't good for the chemistry and the makeup of this, if it's going to make me feel worse, I don't do it. I won't
Right.
eat it.
And
I won't do it.
did you notice that you hit a point where even your body rejected alcohol? Like you couldn't, you felt 10 million, like
Yes.
whether you had one glass of wine or 10,
And
you still felt
puffy. And I just
and
felt
just
like
felt horrible.
horrible.
Yeah. And there is a physiological change that happens where we
Yes.
can't process it the same way because
Yes.
even if I pretty much am alcohol free, like I'll do it maybe for my birthday or for my
Right.
daughter wants to go out for a glass of wine. I'm going to have a glass of wine with my daughter.
Yes.
She's 25. I'm having a glass of wine. But I'm aware that okay, I'm probably going to feel like crap tomorrow. Like I already know. So it's a
Mhm.
conscious I call it conscious drinking.
Yes.
So I'm aware okay, so tomorrow like I don't do it the night before I'm hosting a podcast. Like there's things
Yes.
but I just can't do it. And I am the same. I mean, I'm gluten free. I avoid dairy. The weight training, the walking
Oh,
10,000 steps, the whole thing.
yes.
What if now you said HRT, are you doing estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone?
No, oh gosh, insurance and they won't give me this and that. And I'm fighting with my doctor and she's, got to be a day over 15. I swear I have a female Doogie Howser. And I'm like, you don't even understand what I'm talking about. Call me in 30 years
No.
and we'll have a better conversation. Listen, this is what I need. This is what
Yeah.
so I've just got like the estrogen cream that I've got right now, and then another
Yeah.
one thing, but I'm not on the progesterone. I'm like, oh, the heck with it. But I am
That
feeling
helps
better.
with sleep. Just so you know, if you have trouble with sleep, progesterone is the answer.
Mhm.
So I don't know if
I
you've
do
hit that point
magnesium
yet.
at night and I do well. Sleep
Yeah,
for me,
okay, good.
I think
That's
'cause
good.
I'm such a super spaz, when I shut down, I'm down. Thankfully, my sleep has not ever been affected. I need more sleep. If anything, as my husband said, he goes, God, you want to sleep a lot. I'm like, yeah, I do. Because I didn't
Well,
sleep
that's
for the
good.
last 40 years. So yes, I would like to sleep now.
Yeah, you're
Do
you're
you know me?
catching
Did
up.
you see my life?
Yeah, yeah, you're now catching up with the rest.
I'm curious,
Uh,
really quick. Do you eat or takes eat creatine? I'll get my question out. Do you do creatine?
No. Should I?
Okay.
if you lift,
Yeah.
yeah, and menopausal women look up creatine for
Well,
menopause.
I'm
It's
going to
definitely
now.
for men over
Yeah,
50,
creatine
men
for
of all
sure.
ages, but especially over 50. I'm
Yeah.
just curious if
No, they say
you
for
seem pretty
women,
dialed in if you do
No, I'm
creatine.
a freak and a nerd now. I'll be ordering it as soon as we hang up. I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I must
research
have
it.
this thing."
Yeah, definitely. And
Check it out for women. I know it's for
Thanks.
men.
there's also there's more and more places that are just focusing on hormones that will do telehealth and will prescribe separate from your doctor. I know here we're in Florida, there's places like that where you can do a telehealth with them for like $100 or $150 and
Yeah,
then they'll call in HRT for you. So if you ever want to go that route, I'm sure in Southern California that's
right.
there. I mean, everything there is so health. I'm from Oregon, so I'm a West Coast person. I know California, everything's so health based. So I'm sure
Oh,
that's
yeah,
there. But
especially here in San Diego. Oh my goodness.
yeah. for sure.
And
But
a lot of regulation, though, I think, in some ways.
I don't know. So maybe not. But I just it's such I call it putting Humpty Dumpty back together again for us, where if you don't do the one thing, you feel you are falling apart. Like
Yes.
if I don't do the walking, I'm screwed. If I don't do my celery juice in the morning, I'm screwed.
I
So it's
am
like
so regimented. Same here.
yes. Yes.
Everything. I'm like, oh no, I'm not missing that. No, 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 no.
Just to be normal, just to be a normal person, not
Yes.
even to be like, I'm thriving, but just to like be at that
I'm
normal
breathing.
level. I'm breathing.
I'm
I
not
got up
murdering you
today.
today. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't
Did,
kill you in your sleep, Brian.
did the women
Yeah,
in
all
your
of
life
that.
tell you that this was going to happen? Because I had
No,
absolutely zero information that this was something that was going to happen. And still, if I bring it up to mom, she goes, well, I really didn't have any problem with menopause. So I don't know what you're talking about. Her pregnancies
no,
were
they were
perfect.
all
She never had
I think your
menopause, never
mom
had a
says the same
symptom,
thing.
nothing wrong with
yes.
her.
Yeah.
That generation like was stoic through so many things, but it's one of the reasons I do bring it up because I want the younger generation to know what's ahead. And perimenopause can start as early as 37, 38.
Mhm.
So I think us Gen X women have got to use our voices to get this. Same with like hysterectomies, same with pelvic organ prolapse and your pelvic
Yes.
floor health. Because no one talked to us about this. So I'm like, Gen X is going to do it.
We're
We're going to
reaching out
get
to
this out
our
there.
older millennials going, come to mama. We're going to tell you it's
Yes.
okay. It's
Yes.
okay. Come here.
What do you want to know? Well, we'll be a resource of information. So if somebody's Googling, maybe this part of this podcast will come up,
Yes.
menopause, and then they hear two women talking about. That's my goal.
I
Is
love
just
it.
get it out there, get it
It's
out there, get it out there.
okay to
So
talk about this stuff.
it is, and that the sons should be raised that this is what women go through and periods and everything.
Right?
So women can talk about everything, and it's not to be embarrassed about. And Gen X men, like he's learned a lot from doing the
What do you want to
podcast.
know?
Right?
What do you want to know?
So no, but that now my other question is, what would be your advice to a woman that's hit midlife and is looking around and saying, I have no idea who I am and I have no idea what to do and I feel lost.
Mhm.
What do I do now? What would be your advice? Because you've had so many lives
Oh
already
my God.
and you're such an inspiration. So if what would you say to them?
I would say start with a list of what you don't want anymore. And I know I had to do that for myself as I sit here and go, what's next? What do I not want? We've identified I don't want to do a show if it's not a matinee, right? What don't I want? I don't want to deal with yahoos anymore. I'm done with that. I don't want this or that or this or that. So deciding what doesn't suit us anymore, especially in this midlife time, especially at the empty nest phase. What don't I want? That's going to narrow that channel to what is left and what are the tools that I actually still love about myself. What are the things that still does bring me joy when I do it? What are some of the skills that I could bring to an industry or to volunteering or to my community that could be of benefit, that would work? What's repulses me, right? So making that list of the don't helps identify more what's left. And then there's a lot more breathing room to imagine and create and visualize and put out to the world and to the universe that this is a possibility. But when it's just everything, it's overwhelming. We're on overload, and especially because we do have such digital overload. And here I train social media and I get it, but it is still digital overload. So also training our algorithms that we're only seeing those things that are bringing positivity or feeding that thing that we're thinking about or looking towards. And that I think is the most helpful, creating even our digital space to only show us those things that are of value to us in our life.
That is amazing advice. And I've never heard anyone say that before of make a list of what you don't want now. And that is a great way to not feel overwhelmed in that situation
Yes.
because you are so right that it's almost like process of elimination and then look at what's left.
Yes.
So thank you. That's amazing advice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Before
you.
I ask my last question, do you have any more questions?
I do have a lot of questions, but
I'm here.
yeah, no, I do think on your branding, I'm still blown away that you put together the video because when we watched it, I
Yeah.
was like, wow, this is super high quality, and it just flows. And just to orchestrate that or choreograph it, I guess is more like it. Um, it feels like you can do that for other people too.
Yes.
And is that part of your business where if someone's thinking of not so much, maybe it's a music video, right? There's
Mhm.
a lot of ways you can record nowadays.
Yes.
But you took it to a whole nother level So is that part of your business?
It became because I became a production geek, especially when I was a part of those television shows before COVID. I had a lot of experience working with the editors at the media company. No, like tweak that a little bit. I, put this here, put this there, and really learning what it took to put an episode together, to put a show together, what that editing needed to look like out on the field shoots with the camera guys, how they got those angles, what they were looking for, where I would see something was slow or needed more movement or this or that. And it really taught me so much because when I dive into something, I always love looking at the back end too. So even though I was the one, that was the host of the show, I was
Yeah.
so geeked out on the technical capacity of everything from the lighting to the sound to the framing, how they were doing their job and how it all came together. And I kept paying attention and taking notes. And so it was really fun for me to add that to the toolkit that I'm able to offer because I had that firsthand experience. And when it came time to releasing my music, and I'm like, well, I need a music video. I've never actually had the opportunity. And I didn't want to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm like, I know how to do this. So I can outsource the things that I don't do the best. I didn't have the software for the quality of, the smooth transitions that he did, but I did timestamp. I pulled all the clips and sent it to him in a giant, shared drive that said, this clip goes at 1 minute and 26 seconds. This clip goes at 2 minutes and, whatever. And I time stamped it and they did a beautiful job putting it together. And we did a few revisions and there it was. And I
Yeah,
think that
sure.
creative process, and yes, I could advise others on that and help oversee a production project. Again, why I would have loved to have gone to the LA Film School growing up in Southern California. See, I could have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have been there.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's where, yeah, I'm sure you can get wrapped up into the potential that was lost if you would have been
Yes.
able to have followed those steps. But I think your story is a gazillion times more interesting in the way you followed it versus if you would have done that traditional route.
Yes.
If you really think about what you did, I don't know if you would have had near these experiences if you would have just headed over to
Well,
Maybe.
college like everyone else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And again, you don't know what that would have led to, but I don't know. Your story is so seasoned
I
I
threw
think
into
that,
what
things, that's for sure.
yeah,
I think
definitely.
what's cool is it was going to be a question, but it's just self evident. You have this skill to self recognize what your strengths are and your skills are, and then stitch it together.
Mhm.
And that's kind of cool. And that's kind of the story of your life is you learn something here, you learn something there, and you just kept stitching it together. And that's pretty cool. It seems like you're in a great space.
Thank you.
Not the easy path. You've been tested, like we said, but seems like you're in a great
Thank
space.
you.
Great energy, a great outlook on things. Going back to your kids, the fact that you say you make sure you guys all talk.
Mhm.
They respect you because they're picking up the
Yeah.
phone. So you might demand it, but they respect you and they want to talk to mom. And so kudos to you.
Thank
Great,
you.
great job.
Thank
It's that
you.
scrappiness.
Yeah.
We're close.
That's
They're
that
amazing.
scrappiness.
They're amazing young adults. I could not say enough about each one of them. All of them completely polar opposite. Um, but I can't say enough about each one of them and who they are and their hearts and their character. They'll do anything they want to do. And anytime they hit a hard time or an impasse or life kicks them down, I go, it's a blip, you guys. Look, we did it. Remember when we did this together and you guys helped pull me up?
Mhm.
So it's okay. And I was so thankful that the two older sons were actually in the room with me when dad took his last breath. We had that
Mhm.
experience together. And I'm
Yeah.
so thankful that they saw how I honored my father in the way that he was cared for and that um, and I say, okay, guys, see, I raised the bar. Who's taking me? And then nobody's stepping up to the
Yeah.
plate on that one yet. Um, but I am glad that there's those qualities, and I hope that my grandkids, these granddaughters, are going to go. Oh, we heard stories about grandma. Don't ask. I want that. I would much rather,
Yeah.
at the end of
Yes.
my time, that they're going to have these crazy stories about grandma and the
Yeah.
scrappiness, rather
Well,
than
you'll
I
become
played it safe
legendary.
and there were no stories. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah.
I'm still breathing, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've gained,
No,
we've
yeah.
lost, we've gained, we've lost, and it was just stuff, right? It was just stuff.
No,
Yeah.
their grandma's a legend.
Yeah.
And
Legendary. Yeah.
and this episode, helped document your story. And one of the reasons that we do this is so people have this for their children, their grandchildren, their great grandchildren, and even when you're gone, your generations after you can look at you and listen to you and hear what you thought about things and hear about your life from you. And that's a gift to future generations.
Thank you.
So,
Legacy
and they
living,
get,
right? And I
yes,
think that we,
absolutely.
as Gen Xers, we're different than we're called like that forgotten generation. People
Yeah.
don't realize that we fell in this crack of so much but we also had, especially with the 80s, we had the coolest time. That was the best time to be a teenager. I mean, it was just awesome, right?
Yep.
So we've
Yep.
had
Yeah.
some really, we were the last ones. We weren't worried about cell phones and technology and any of that stuff. We got to play, we got to be lost and nobody knew where we were. We got to do those things before some other things got harder. And I would rather have had that than what I see like my poor young adults going through with trying to find their way in this economy and the different things that they're going to have to do to make a way, and student loans or no student loans and all those things. We had some beautiful times. We fell in some really hard times. And I think that we are going to rise up to be the first real generation that tells the next generations it's okay. No shoulds. You don't have to. Just be you. It's all right to have emotions. It's all right to talk about what our bodies are going through. It's all right to say we're having a hard time. And the generations before us weren't teaching us that. And we've been able to change that narrative. And I know that the way I'm hopefully doing this, that I've changed this for the next generations, that my granddaughters will be different because of these choices that I think all of us as Gen Xers have chosen to do and be, to shift it.
No, there's no question. You are part of the narrative of the cultural shift. You are doing your part, and an inspiration, I hope, to other Gen X women to use their voice for the same reason.
I have a
Because,
question now on this.
okay, go ahead.
Well, no, you just mentioned something we were talking about, especially for myself as a kid, right? I'm growing up in the 80s and Gen X. Wasn't really, you don't express yourself. It's either anger or, I don't know, you weren't really allowed to cry, right?
No.
For boys.
Yeah, for
For
boys.
Give you
boys,
For
something to
yes.
boys.
cry about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it was. I'll give you something to cry about. Loosely, my parents were not, I mean, my parents are okay. But we were talking about how our kids express their emotions far more now than when we were kids. Sounds like you have the same, right? Your kids will share with you. That's what keeps it all together, I guess.
Totally.
But have you noticed that as well for your kids? And even
Completely.
with Ryan to your daughter, you've got a little bit of a span there.
It's almost
Have you
14
seen that
years.
evolve over time? What's the span?
They're almost 14 years apart.
Yeah, so 14. Have you seen that evolve over time?
Oh,
With
completely.
yeah,
Completely. And like you mentioned earlier, like I'm a different mom with her than I
Yeah.
was with them. And they
100%.
like to
Yeah,
point that out as
yeah.
well. But, and also she was the only girl.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. There's nothing like a
Some little
girl.
sibling rivalry there.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
no, there's nothing like the girl, but
yeah.
we do change with each one. So, but I think Gen X parents, a lot of us made the space for our children to be able to express their emotions and feel we created that space for them that we weren't given. So
Yes.
But you
that's
grow into that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so do you have
I'm
any
good.
other
I'm
questions?
good. No,
Okay.
it's been really cool.
I think one
So
thing I
my
try to relate to them, and it's been a recent conversation with a number of them when they're like, okay, but this was such a hard week, or this happened, or this. I just, it'll get easier. And I went, I hate to be the one to tell you,
yeah,
something always comes next. It'll be something,
Yeah.
especially now if you're parents, right? It's
yeah,
how you're handling your resiliency in this situation that you'll carry to the next situation. So your wisdom gets a little bit better, your discernment gets a little bit better, or your patience becomes a little bit stronger, or your gauge of how severe you think this actually is compared to what the severity could be. Your gauge will change. So how you're handling these are tools to what's coming next, because it always will.
yeah. That's great advice. And I was going to say, you've definitely given your children resilience. Like you've taught them resilience, and that's such one of the most important tools in life. I mean, what other one is there? That one gets you through.
And by
So
example.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I
You're not
mean.
just,
So such and
BS.
discernment, like you said,
Yeah.
such great advice. Okay, my last question is always, and I know you said you don't like to necessarily do this, but I still always ask this. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I know you said you're not a planner. You like to kind of see what comes at you,
So plan the opposite.
yeah, but not necessarily a plan. But where do you see yourself in 5 years?
No, I see your point. I think the difficulty for me on this one was because of the shakeup of what I just came out of as a recovering caregiver and with dad. I
Yes.
used to be more laser focused in answering that question. This year was like, oh, wow. Uh,
Right.
Again, keeping underwater basket weaving as an option. All right. So it's possible.
Yes.
5 years. I see, and I've been writing this down a lot. I see more calmer stability and balance. That I'm still working in my passion, helping others, but without the same hustle or fight or flight or survival behind what I'm doing. I see more of a flex, stable, easier movement. And I think that not that hard things aren't going to come ahead, because I know they will, but I just think that I feel like it's my turn a little bit, that I might actually just get to breathe for the next 5 years in some
Yes.
capacity. Just breathe for a minute and look back and reflect. I see another book. I really do think that I'm going to get some of this in writing. I think it's time. And I do see another music project. I do see going back in the studio.
I think that's wonderful. I love the breathe, because that is where we're at right now, is where we can stop and just kind of look around and breathe and let our nervous system regulate.
Yes.
Even if it's something like washing the dishes. I used to wash the dishes like I was in a race. And then I realized, why am I doing everything around the house like I'm in a race or I'm rushing? Like, I
Uh-huh.
can walk to the laundry room. I don't have to speed walk to the laundry room.
Oh, I
But
feel
it's
you
those
on that.
little things. Yeah, it's those little things like let the nervous, it's okay. You
Yes.
know, if it's from being in fight or flight for
Like,
our whole
whole
life.
life.
Hello. So, but I think that's wonderful. And when you write that book, if you would like to come back on to discuss it or your music project,
Thank you.
you have an open invitation here
Thank you.
anytime to come back on and promote whatever your next project is, because we can't wait to see what you do. And we can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story. And again,
Well, you took a
I'm
big
so
chance on
honored.
me. I'm sure when you read, you were like, "Oh my goodness, where do we begin?
No,
What's this
no.
mess?"
No, listen, honey, I'm messy too. So no, I was excited. I was very excited to have you on, and I didn't realize that we were part of this, the beginning of the next stage for you here. So
Yes.
I'm just so appreciative of that, and so we cherish that. We cherish your story.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we were able to document it for your children, your grandchildren, and your future generations, and for any listeners that are out there that need that confidence, need that guidance, need that advice on having a media presence, on taking that chance, on picking up that phone and maybe starting that, just talking about something they're knowledgeable about, but they're just too scared to take that
Yes.
step. They can reach out to you, and we just established expertise in pretty much every area.
You could be a life coach.
I know. You know what?
You really could.
I know where my limits stop.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would feel
That's
I'm such an empath. I would get so
Mhm.
emotionally attached that I would be just wrecked after every one of them. They're going through this, and I can't. I couldn't. So I'm going to stay in
Right.
my lane.
Yeah, no,
That's
yeah,
great advice
yeah,
to yourself.
yeah.
So you do flow better in the next 5 years, and you do have a little bit.
It's
That's
boundaries.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's respecting boundaries. You had talked about something earlier, and I thought it's boundaries. It's having boundaries in our life really for the first time. That's so smart. You know what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do that,
Yes.
but the
Yeah.
media coach. So, and we encourage, we're gonna I think you sent us I'll put in the show notes how people can find you.
Yes.
But will that also link to your music
Yes,
video?
the link tree, you have my link tree link, and it's in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
email signature. I put it in the prep sheet, and that link
Yeah.
tree has everything. So it's one click, and you can see all of those things
Okay.
and browse what you like or toss it, whichever.
Yeah, I mean, I
Here
highly
we are.
encourage all listeners, go check out this music video.
Thank you.
What if it
What
goes
if it all
right?
goes
Is that
right? Yes. If you
what if
just
it all
Google Amy
goes
Scruggs,
right?
you can't miss it. What if it all goes right?
No, it's a wonderful music video. And then the song Fly, I have to check that out. I love the idea of it
Oh, watch the
for
video.
I will. I'll watch the video, but for, graduations or
Yes.
that type, that could become kind of an anthem, a
And
regular. So I'm
now
gonna
that you
definitely.
know the story, and especially of my
Yes.
Yeah.
kids and why
Totally.
I recorded that
Yes.
song, it was just, ugh, yes.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And
I'm
so
picturing this not highly, but super well produced, put together touching video and song.
Well, and
And
her asking for people to send in
that's what I'm
pictures.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listeners, please go check out
Thank you.
these two songs, and you can find. We're going to have in the show notes how to find Amy, and if you want to reach out to her for any media coaching help, if you're starting or if you're in the middle of it, or
Or
you're keynote preparation, she's the one.
Yeah.
But we'll have in the notes how to reach her. And again, thank you,
Thank
Amy, for
you.
coming
I
on.
have to say, you guys are a light in this world, and I am so grateful. And listeners, you need to follow, share, and subscribe to everything they have. As I looked even at your past guest list, there's some of my heroes and other people that I already follow on social media that I think are fantastic. I'm like, wow, they've been on the show too. You guys have an incredible energy that is attracting in other amazing human beings that are opening up these conversations and changing the narratives for our next generations. And so what you guys are doing is so important, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much for those kind words. It really means a
We've
lot.
had some
And
really, really cool, fascinating people. And now
and
you're
now you're one
on
of
the
them.
list.
You're part of our tapestry.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining in on that group. We feel privileged with all of our guests, and you have been an incredible one, and we've loved hearing your story, and I'm so inspired by you. So for our listeners, please leave any questions or comments that you have for Amy or for us. We love to hear from you. And again, I will put in the show notes where you can find Amy Scruggs, and we will see you next time. Bye.